7:10 almost. No problem. Oh, 7:08. Good evening. My name is Chuck Iova, and I'll be presiding over this evening's meeting of the Malden Planning Board, February 12, 2020. Before we get started, I'd like to read that for those in attendance, under the provisions of the open meeting law, attendees are informed that this meeting is being recorded by MATV. I have not been notified that any other video or audio recording of this meeting will occur. The next thing we will do is we will have roll call, and we'll start off with Risa Gray.
Risa Gray, Planning Board.
ተወዳጅ ገብረስላሴ Planning Board.
Diane Chuha, Planning Board.
Ken Antonucci, Planning Board.
Chuck Iovan, Planning Board.
Michelle Romero, City Planner.
Pat Hayes, Planning Board.
Eric Henry, Planning Board.
Henry Susi, Planning Board.
Charlie Ferguson, Planning Board.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to remind everyone on the board, please make sure that you're speaking to the microphone and speak clearly. I'd like to remind those coming up to the podium, please give your name and residential address for the record. If you step away when you come back to the microphone and you begin to speak again, if you could just announce your name, it will help with the recording for MATV. Make sure everyone speaks into the microphone. Thank you. The first hearing we'll hear tonight is 121 Madison Street. Ken, if you could read the notice.
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the auditorium on the first floor of the John and Christina Markey Malden Senior Community Center, 7 Washington Street, Malden, Mass. At 7 p.m. on Wednesday, February 12, 2020. On the petition of K-Court Realty, LLC, to amend the special permit granted in case number 19-01 under Section 700.1.3.2 of Chapter 12, Revised Ordinances of 1991, as amended, of the City of Malden, which allows the extension and structural change of a pre-existing non-conforming property in the Industrial 2 zoning district, namely construction of an addition containing 2 stories and approximately 12,551 square feet at the property known as and numbered 109 to 121 Madison Street, Malden, Mass., and also known by City Assessor's Parcel ID number 063-307-702A.
Thank you very much, Ken. Is the petitioner present? If you could come up and introduce yourself and then give your presentation, please.
Louis Barretto Jr., 10 Parker Street, Woburn, Mass.
Thank you. And if you could go give your presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board, we are requesting the removal of condition number 9, which limits us to the addition of light manufacturing and manufacturing only. It makes it very difficult to market the space based only on those 2 categories. In our previous meeting, there was mention that a current tenant could be taking the space, which that is not going to happen at this point in time. So we need to be able to market to a broader group. When we first went for our special permit, we did apply based on anything allowed in the zone, in the current zoning. We did our traffic study based on that, and so we're just looking to amend that one piece so that we could get going on building over there. If not, this could render it non-cost prohibitive for us to build it, and we might have to move on to something different.
Okay, so you said that you initially applied for everything and did your traffic study on everything. My understanding was that wasn't true. Michelle, could you clarify that?
Yes, the plans showed light manufacturing. The parking calculations were based on light manufacturing. The plans labeled the space light manufacturing, and the traffic impact study was for general light industrial use, which is not everything allowed by right. The other uses that are allowed by right are separate and distinct uses under the zoning, under parking, under the traffic impact study criteria as well. So that's what the records indicate. It doesn't indicate anything other than that, what you originally filed.
Okay. That was my understanding, and I guess based on the traffic study being done on the light industrial zoning, I guess that was my understanding, that it was done based on everything allowed in that industrial zoning.
Yeah, I mean, there's several things allowed in that zone, allowed by right. This is research and development, the light manufacturing, building, construction, contracting, public service corporation. Then there are a variety of business uses, club, lodge, daycare, religious facilities are all institutional. Then the business uses are general offices, recreation for gainful business, retail sales, retail services. So the study didn't look at any of those. Again, based on the plans and the parking as well. For the board's reference, we evaluated it under what it was shown in the documents that were submitted. So that's the information.
Okay, I just want to clarify that, because as I recall from the hearing, it was under light manufacturing. And the concern I have with it is, if you look at everything, all uses in this zoning, there are some that would just explode the parking requirements. There are 40, I think there are 46 parking spaces available on site.
Yes.
And for what we approved, that eats up 44 of them. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you're aware of it, but there are things like religious facilities require 251, general offices 50. So just those uses alone would eat up all your parking and not leave anything for your existing tenants. Club or lodge, 126, not likely to be a club or lodge, but still, all the uses within this particular zoning, there are quite a few of them, and it would be a lot more helpful if we could get an indication of what you're targeting that would also help satisfy the parking questions or potential parking impact.
Sure.
I don't know how many. Is there anyone here that's going to be speaking on this petition out in the audience? Okay, I see. I see Councilor Crowe, but there were, I believe, 3 or 4 people who spoke in opposition during the initial hearing. And to be perfectly candid, I don't know that I would have voted in favor of it as I did had it been for all uses within the zoning. So that's where my concern comes from. Some of these other items, by just choosing a generic all uses, that's where I'm coming from on it. So I'm hoping that you can help me understand that a little bit more. Also, what marketing efforts have you done? I mean, the economy's just soaring. I'm curious why you can't find a use for it that's more specific than what you're finding.
We have yet to start formal marketing, but we have talked to several brokers that feel that will hinder our ability, especially not being able to do like an R&D, which is a big thing now. We're prohibited from doing that right now. And at the time of the approval, any one of those other uses.
So the brokers are advising you that they'll be able to market it more effectively if you can just put anything that's allowed in there.
Allowed in the district, yes.
Okay. Did none of them address the parking issues or what the mix of the tenants are?
No.
No, okay.
No. But it would be my understanding that anything that would create a parking issue, that would have to be addressed at that time. And like I said, I don't have it in front of me, but I think anything that would require, anything that's required a special permit, I have no issue with in that zone that it requires a special permit.
So you're open to having us make it contingent on whomever you might want to put in there and then come back to a public hearing each time?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm
Okay.
saying is, I know, and I don't have the chart in front of me right now, but I know in some of those uses do require a special permit, even though they're allowed in the district, they require a special permit. I have no issue with that. It's just the ones that are absolutely allowed that is in question. Allowed by right.
Okay. Michelle?
No, I was just going to say there are, just to be clear, we're talking about two different things here. It sounds like there are uses that are allowed by special permit. They would have to come back for a special permit. It wouldn't be an option or a choice. It would be required for special permit. Those uses, I didn't understand that we were talking about those uses. Those uses, I do have a list of those as well. I thought we were talking about uses allowed by right, which are the lists that I read previously. So those are allowed by right in the district, provided dimensional and parking controls are met. What the petitioner is referencing is if a parking violation is created, they could go for a variance. That is true for, I would say, an existing building. What you have here is a little different in the sense that you were permitting construction of a new addition to a non-conforming property, you would need to know the use before you permitted that. So that's typically what happens. This isn't, if the petitioner wanted to occupy his building that's existing for something else and it created a parking violation, that's typically what would happen. The board, historically doesn't grant a permit to build an addition for an unknown use. And then, if it needs you ask for the use because that's how we evaluate whether the addition complies with dimensional controls, parking, et cetera. We say, how's the addition going to be used? And as I said, all the plans and everything that was submitted said light manufacturing. The condition actually also includes manufacturing, which I noted in the staff report was an inadvertent mistake on my part because that actually created dimensional violations, which I did not notice. So I would have recommended that you stick with the light manufacturing, which is why the recommendation is that. The research and development, it is allowed by right. That actually does have the same parking requirement. Mm-hmm. So as well as the same dimensional, I believe. Let me just double check that. No, actually, that's not correct. The research and development would create a new violation of side yard setback. So the addition that's been permitted, if it's used for research and development, would create a 27% violation of the addition that's yet to be constructed. So you can allow that. You just would need to, amend your decision to reflect that. Not only the condition, but that you're allowing a new violation to be created because your decision did not reflect that because the proposal didn't create any new violations based on the use that was proposed. So there are a couple uses, as I said, that research and development's one, building construction contracting is another. They require the same parking, but they do have different dimensional controls. Those are two other industrial uses. And then the rest, as I mentioned, were either institutional or business uses.
Okay, thank you. Have you seen the list of uses that are allowed?
Yes.
And have you seen the one that had the parking requirements associated with it?
Yes.
Is there anything that we could help focus this in on? I wouldn't have a problem with expanding the light manufacturing to include R&D and then building construction and contracting, pending Michelle confirming the dimensional portion so that we get that right and clean that that up. but there's a few here that I would not want to include: a religious facility. I wouldn't want to include a club or lodge. I'm not even sure I'd like a daycare in there, given all the other stuff and the heavy trucking that's associated there. So is there any way you can help us focus in on what you might be looking for, or have you not even consulted your marketing folks about that?
No, I have, and what I was going to say is, like, and I'm not sure if I'm looking at the same thing, but on the research and development, it requires 15 parking spaces, which is the same as the light manufacturing,
Right.
so it's the same. So that's one. The building, construction, and contracting, that I have no issue with limiting, the daycare or the religious facility. As those being a concern, because, like I said, it was my understanding that if that was something that came up, we'd have to come back for a variance on the parking anyway, because we would create a violation.
Yeah, Michelle, he would more than likely end up going to the Board of Appeals for a parking variance, wouldn't he? Or would he have
If
to
the
come
use
back
is,
here?
if the use is allowed by right.
Right.
If you,
So-
it's before you because it's pre-existing non-conforming. You can legalize any new non-conformities in your review of this. So if you wanted to allow an addition that was going to create new violations, parking, dimensional, you could do that under the special permit. If you don't, then they would need to go back. But again, keep in mind, there are other, it's parking and there's also dimensional. I believe he'd have to go back for relief on dimensional controls if you don't allow it under the special permit. Because it would be a building, and use of it would be creating new violations. Use of the building right now with the 11-foot setback meets certain dimensional controls for certain uses. It doesn't for other uses. So unless you legalize that, he would be required to do that, to go back to the Board of Appeal,
Okay,
or to go to the Board of Appeal if he was proposing any of those occupancies or uses.
so the three that appear to be, just looking through, is general offices, recreation for gainful business, and public service corporation. Michelle, could you give us a brief description of what each of those are? Because each of those carry a parking requirement of 4 more than you're providing right now.
Okay.
One of these has a definition, so I'll start with that. Public Service Corporation is defined in the ordinance to be a utility controlled and licensed by the State Department of Public Utilities, general offices, and may include accessory warehouse, motor vehicle repair, and parking facility. General offices are any type of professional offices, so essentially anything that's non-contracting offices. So any accountants, real estate agent, engineer, any type of professional office. So it wouldn't be an electrician or any type of contractor, landscaper, not those types of offices. So they would have to be general offices, a type of general office. Again, what I would say professional office. And then the third is recreation for gainful business. That's not defined, but that typically includes any type of business where there's a recreation involved. It could be a theater, a pool hall, RC control car, track, dance studio, yoga studio, karate studio, anything like that. Those are typical ones that we
A gymnasium?
see. A gymnasium, fitness center, CrossFit, any type of gym, whether it's by appointment or, open gym, whatever they call it. So those would be that type of, and then, of course, the other one is, which I think, I'm not sure why, I think it's off this list. Retail service is the other one that should be on that list. Just let me double check that. Retail service is allowed by right. And retail service is any type of service: hair salon, nail salon, dog groomer, laundromat, the massage therapy that's not licensed massage. So retail service is the other one. So those four: retail services, recreation for gainful business, offices, public service corporation, those have the same parking requirements, 4 per 1,000.
Okay.
In terms of dimensional controls, I didn't really, since they have different, most of those have the same lot size, same front yard, side yard setbacks, et cetera, lot coverage, heights, things like that. Most of the business uses have the same. It's a couple of these industrial uses that actually have different setbacks.
Okay.
So I would say one set of uses will create dimensional violations. The other would create parking violations. If you're looking at the business uses, so occupying that addition for these business uses will create parking violations. Occupying it for those industrial uses will create.
So occupying it for
dimensional.
R&D or building construction and contracting will create dimensional
Right.
control violations.
But it will comply with the parking. But those will create a 27% violation, which, I mean, again, you can allow, if you want to, you can legalize a new nonconformity
Okay.
since it's coming to you as a pre-existing nonconforming addition.
Okay, let's see. Charlie Ferguson has a question.
Yeah, thank you. Michelle, you answered part of my question by saying that the industrial use does create some dimensional violations, but from what I'm gathering from the petitioner, that he's not looking for uses that would create the parking violation. Like from what I'm hearing, it sounds like you want all uses by right, but you understood if it did create a parking violation, you have to come back. So I guess my question is, to address part of it, would he be comfortable saying that he's not applying for all the uses that would at least create parking violations? I think that would be part of it, and then we wouldn't have to worry about like the daycare and everything. We could just eliminate those uses as being part of this.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that you should specify, if you're going to allow the addition to be non-conforming and create violations, I think you should definitely specify that and specify what use it can be used for. The other option, which we haven't talked about, is he can reduce the size of the addition. If he changes the dimension along that property line, the setback changes it from 11 to 15,
Right.
he'll comply. He'll eliminate that, so then that will take that issue off the table. Whereas it's not built yet, I'm not sure if that's an option.
Right, but from what he's said, it sounds like he's not interested in the uses that would create parking violations.
That is correct.
Okay, so we could just say, exclude all rights that would create parking violations. That sounds like you'd be comfortable with that.
Yes.
But it seems like you would be interested in some of the uses, industrial uses that create dimensional violations.
Yes.
Because it sounds like industrial.
Because we already currently have dimensional violation.
Right.
I don't know if it's the same, but
Yeah, we could
And
eliminate.
would you be open to reducing the size of the expansion to satisfy those dimensional violations that you'd be creating?
not at this time, no.
Okay, are there anyone else have any other questions?
I had one question.
Yep, go ahead.
When I was reviewing this again, and this had come up at the first hearing, have you given any further thought to, your plan shows these 4 garage doors facing that single-family house?
Yep.
Which I understand you're moving forward to do the demolition, you're following that process.
Yes.
what's the plan for using those garage doors if there's only a 8 to 11-foot access point? How will vehicles get in and out? Or you don't, last time you said you just might use them for air or ventilation or something.
That is still the current plan.
Okay. So there's still no plan for vehicular access through them?
Correct.
Okay.
We can come back for that at a later time if need be, correct?
Well, I don't know, that's kind of why I'm asking, because I know you're pursuing the demolition of the building. The building next door is a different zone, it's Residence B, so
Correct.
you can't use that for industrial use. So I didn't
Right.
know if that might factor into your decision maybe to change the setback there. I don't know if you could, if the setback was 15, maybe that would be, that's wide enough for a driveway. You could at least access the building on that side. If you're accessing it through a Residence B lot, to my knowledge, you can't do that in the sense that that's residential property.
Right. That's
So-
right. We're just going to leave it as is for now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, could you speak to your involvement with MIT? And it sounds like an incubator. Do you have some program where you offer space to MIT development programs?
We actually have, currently we have an MIT spinoff in our building at 7 Bow Street. The Top Flight Technologies that's in the building at 109 Madison Street is a MIT spinoff. So we have that back and forth conversation with them that when they're looking for space, they contact us. And
So is it a formal relationship with them, or just one where they placed one, so they tried to place another?
yes, correct. Not a formal relationship.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I did have 2 other questions too. So did you, last time you were here, you told us what was in the storage trailers. Has that changed?
Same, it's the same.
And what was that again?
They're actually blue bikes.
Okay, so that program you said before, what's it with an insurance company?
Yes, with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay, thank you. And then I also noticed, which I don't think I saw before, all this street signage for the city of Boston. What is that about?
Those are blue bikes also. That's their, those are the kiosks.
Oh, okay.
They're storing them there for the winter. Those are the ones they take off the street for the winter, so they can plow. And
Oh, okay.
those will be leaving in April.
Okay, so that's related to the bike.
Yes, it's all related to Blue Bike.
Okay, thank you.
And is that just for Boston, or is it just anywhere Blue Bike has it?
There's Everett, there's Boston. I don't think Blue Bike has any in Malden, but it's all surrounding.
Okay, so it's wherever they get it.
Yeah.
I think one of the signs I saw had Boston, City of Boston streets on it. Maybe that's why I thought that was all Boston.
Okay. Is there anyone else that has a question for the petitioner? No one else has a question? Is there anything else you'd like to add, sir?
The only thing I'd like to add is I know when we were discussing those ones, warehousing isn't on this list here, but it is part of that, and that only requires 1 space per 1,000, so that was one of the other ones that we looked to have added.
Warehouse requires a special permit, so if you wanted to,
It does require.
yeah, it already requires a special permit.
Okay.
So if you
That-
wanted to do that, you'd have to come back in for a special permit.
Okay, that's fine. I just saw it up here.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to add, sir?
That's it.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone to speak in favor?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. I'm here in support of the request to amend the special permit. I support this amendment because the property is an industrial 2 zone, and in hindsight, the petition should be allowed for those uses defined in the table of use regulations. I understand some other concerns. And from reading the staff report, really the potential of what may be, but I believe the reasons, as he stated, to expand that is to be able to target a larger audience of potential tenants than light manufacturing. And if, parking is insufficient for some of the by right uses, he is required to go for a variance. So again, in short, there's another mechanism to kind of cross-check that and deny if need be. And unfortunately, I've been at a few of those where I've had to say I'm not in favor of. And for the ones that are required by special permit, of course, they'd have to be back here in front of you. So again, another opportunity to really, for this board to take a look at that and evaluate the use and what it could create. And again, the fact that it is an industrial 2 zone and the use of the allowance should be consistent with all the other industrial 2 zone properties. But most important, there's still safeguards in place for both the by right and through the special permitting process to look at things again, whoever is coming in. And I understand some of your concerns about that have these gross parking violations, parking spot violations that I would not be in favor of as well. So I would be here against those. But I do believe that it should be amended to allow other uses that are allowed in industrial too.
Councillor, how do you
Yes.
feel about it being abutting residential? 'Cause all those houses aren't industrial too, just this building is.
And again, I think that some of these things, they are already abutting industrial too. So I do think, again, if it's something that is like the daycare, for example, that is kind of for the parking and maybe for traffic controls and, some traffic mitigation, that would have to come back and I think, be reevaluated. And at that time, I would definitely make sure that the neighbors were aware of what the potential use is. I think some of the research and development, some of the warehouse, I know that is under special permit, but those make sense in that piece of property.
Did some of the some of the neighbors who came out in opposition last time, did they attend the public meeting, the neighborhood meeting?
We didn't have one for this.
Oh, you didn't have one?
No, not for this one. Not for this one. If there was something proposed that was sort of, I felt that was, especially if there's a special permit, some of the things before the last special permit process, we did have a neighborhood meeting, and even some of the people that one person anyway that came and spoke in opposition was at the meeting, was all like for it when we walked off the door, so it was kind of funny. But again, all those questions were sort of asked and answered, and I try to take those steps, especially if you're going to have something that's really very different from what is in the neighborhood now and what is besides like the manufacturing, light manufacturing, maybe the R&D. Those things make sense, so I probably wouldn't have meetings around those because we've already met. But if it was proposed in a club lodge, I definitely think that then the neighborhood should really be involved, and I would hope we're not proposing a club lodge. But so any of those uses that I think are just not really coherent with what is in that property now would definitely, I think, trigger a neighborhood meeting and making sure that everyone knows what the circumstances are.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Nope, anything else?
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone else to speak in favor? Michelle, do you have anything to read in favor?
One letter dated February 11th, 2020. It reads, Dear Chairman Iovan and Planning Board members, I write in support of the applicant for 109-121 Madison Street, who is seeking to amend their existing special permit case number 19-01. As you know, this property sits inside of the Industrial 2 zoning district but does not have the eligibility for the full set of uses for Industrial 2 as prescribed in our zoning laws because of the previous special permit. This use restriction limits the ability of the landlord to attract the types of tenants that the city desires. Tenants such as another tenant on that property, an unnamed aerial device research and development firm. The owner of this building has established himself in the MIT community as a go-to landlord for spin-off companies, and I feel that handcuffing his ability to increase their presence is counterproductive to the city's goals. Allowing this petitioner to use the full Industrial 2 table of use regulations for his property moves the city forward in our economic development objectives. I respectfully request that the board consider allowing the petitioner to amend their existing special permit. Thank you, and please contact me if you need any further information. Sincerely, signed Gary Christensen, Mayor, City of Malden.
Okay, anything else to read in favor?
No.
And no, is there anyone else that'd like to speak in favor? Seeing and hearing none, I declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Yep, feel free to come up, name and address for the record.
Hello. My name is Eileen Fontana, and I live at 116, 118 Madison Street. We live directly across the street from the new and improved and enlarged driveway entrance, which is in the current property now. Excuse me, I'm not used to speaking in public. It's been a non-stop hassle for us since they enlarged it. We've lost parking spaces. We have a tenant downstairs who has a hard time finding a parking space. His car, which was a brand new Prius, which was less than a month old, was hit by one of the trucks entering the driveway because the access turns are very tight as it stands right now. And trying to say that there's a potential that more trucks or more, vehicles will be entering into a restricted entrance way would be a problem. The other thing is research and development. We've had nonstop issues with the noise level from the drones that are across the street. We've spoken to them ourselves personally. We've called them several times. Each time they're extremely polite. They pulled out immediately. They went up the street to Route 60. They disappear for about a month or two, and then they come back. And when I say high-pitched noise, that you can't even have your front windows open because it sounds like, it sort of sounds like a landscaping company on for 10 solid hours with this high, this kind of stuff going on constantly. It's a real horrible way to live, but having that on all the time is a real problem. But especially if that house is demolished across the street, if they're saying there's going to be garage doors there, but we're not going to use them, to me that doesn't sound correct. It sounds like sooner or later they're going to be driving trucks into that garage door or multiple ones. And again, we're losing more parking, and we're in a situation where you're right beside a children's playground. There's kids crossing the street and walking up down the street every day. Excuse me. We have several daycares with lots of loads of little kids like little ducklings going down the sidewalk every afternoon. And if you have trucks entering and exiting at a sharp angle with a loss of parking, that's going to be an issue for us. And never mind for our tenants. So I just wanted to say that. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Oh, we'll give you a second. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Michelle, anything to read in opposition? No. Seeing no one and having nothing to read in opposition, declare that part of the hearing closed. Excuse me, sir, what is it? If you can come up back to the microphone, name and address for the record.
Louis Berto Jr., 10 Parker Street in Woburn. I just want to clarify, we have not changed any driveway openings. Any driveway opening that is there is the existing openings that have been there since the building's been there. So I'm not minimizing but they do park right up to the corner of the driveways. They've actually hung over the driveways. We've left notes saying, it makes it difficult. This is the first I'm hearing of anybody's vehicle being hit, because most of those trucks that go in and out of the yard right now I own. So I'd be the first one to hear about it. And this is the very first time I've ever heard of anything being hit. So I just wanted to clarify that we have not changed any driveway openings at all.
Can you speak to the noise being generated by the aerial company?
I know
noticed it?
I know that they do test them there. It has been all approved by the city, by the police chief. Have they been operating them when you've been at the location? Yes.
Have you heard it? Is it
Yes.
is it a high pitched whining sound?
It is a high pitched sound, but they try to keep it to a very minimal, and they don't run it for 10 hours a day. But they're already there and exist there.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Michelle, can you take us through your staff report?
Yes, you heard what the proposal is to remove the condition. The special permit that you granted in case 19-01, you have a copy of in your package. It's incorporated herein by reference, as is the staff report. The addition that you approved increases the gross floor area of the existing building by 33%, and you had restricted use of the addition to light manufacturer and manufacturing. To date, the addition has been constructed, as we heard. No changes are proposed to the approved plans. I did not give you copies of all the plans. I do have copies here if anybody wants to see that. I've given you an outline here of how the building is currently occupied. The petitioner's representative contractor confirmed that these were still the same occupancies as when you first granted the special permit last year. So you have occupancy for retail sales only in conjunction with on-site manufacturing, warehouse, wholesale, and distribution, occupancy for manufacturing and offices, and occupancy for general contracting and parking, which is the yard area. The yard area that's fenced in is, so that's building, construction, contracting use. That is the proposed location of the addition, as you'll recall. You heard the property is located in the Industrial 2 zoning district, direct abutters to the north of residential dwellings, to the south residential dwellings in the Green Street Park, to the east residential dwellings, and to the west manufacturing. The abutters are the same as when the special permit was granted in case 1901. I will note, and I'm not sure if it's referenced the previous staff report. I think you did get a copy of it as well. I will note that this property was previously classified as Industrial 1 in 1980, in 2015, and then it was classified to Industrial 1 in 1985. So it's been industrial since 1985. Prior to that, it was Residence B, which is what the couple surrounding properties are as well. The Residence A zoning district abuts to the east on the other side of Madison Street, and the Residence B zoning district abuts to the north. You heard what the revised proposal is, to allow use of the addition for all uses by right. That's what the application said. I think we've heard something a little bit different from the petitioner. As I mentioned before, the following uses are allowed by right in the Industrial 2 zoning district: club, lodge, daycare center, religious facilities, general offices, recreation for gainful business, retail sales less than 5,000, retail services, building, construction, contracting, manufacturing, repair, research and development, line manufacturing, public service corporation. In terms of what's allowed by special permit, there are a variety of business and industrial uses. I won't go into them unless you want me to read the list. You had that previously noted in your decision. Again, they would all require a special permit by this board, so they would have to come back. Do you want me to read the list or no?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the list that I just read is what's allowed by right, so that would not require a special permit. The following uses would require a special permit: motel, hotel, medical center, restaurant, regular or fast food, retail sales greater than 5,000, adult uses, body art, convenience store, supermarket, substance abuse treatment center, licensed massage therapy salon, medical marijuana treatment center, marijuana establishments, adult day health center, kennel, motor vehicle repair shop, wholesale and distribution, self-storage facility, towing, asphalt, brick, concrete, and soil recycling, and off-site parking facilities. So if any portion of that property was proposed to be used that's not already currently being used for one of those uses, they would need to petition for a special permit. They would need to come back to this board seeking the special permit. Because those uses require a special permit, this board would be able to deal with any new nonconformities, so any dimensional violations or parking violations you could deal with under that special permit. For the allowed uses, if dimensional or parking violations are created, they would need to go to the Board of Appeal and seek a variance. So in terms of dimensional controls, the existing building predates current dimensional controls. It grossly violates side and rear yard setbacks. It's considered pre-existing non-conforming. The proposed addition does require a special permit. It was not allowed by right. It requires a special permit because it's an extension, an expansion, and structural change to a pre-existing non-conforming use. The approved use of the proposed addition for light manufacturing creates no new violation of dimensional controls. It maintains existing violations. Use of the proposed addition for manufacturing creates a new side yard setback violation, 27% on the southern side. So what's required is 15%. What's proposed is 11%. As I noted at the beginning, this violation was not previously noted by me. Had it been, I probably would not have recommended that use be one of the allowed uses for this addition. Use of the proposed addition for building, construction, contracting, and research and development will create a new violation of side yard setback, 27% on the southern side. Again, it's required 15 feet. What's proposed is 11. Had those uses been proposed the first time around, I would have noted those. This addition's creating a violation. Do you want to allow it? So that's why I said before you would need to, if you're allowing use of the addition that's creating this, you can legalize that at this time. Parking and loading, I've given you the breakdown. Currently, 44 spaces are required and 4 loading bay spaces. For the proposed use, it's the same. The site plan approved showed 48 spaces. Per one of your conditions, 2 of them needed to be removed because of maneuverability issues. That was recommended by the city peer reviewer. The revised proposal may affect compliance with parking requirements depending on the use, as we've been just discussing. So all but 2 uses allowed by right will require more parking than currently is on site, create parking deficiencies, which again would require seeking a variance. We've already gone through all these. Again, the one that's missing is retail services. That was my inadvertent omission. Retail services requires 4 per 1,000. In terms of traffic, the traffic impacts of the proposed addition were evaluated using the rates for general light industrial. That was peer reviewed by the city in the report dated February 19, 2018 from Ken Petralia. I have copies of that if anyone's interested. The revised proposal to occupy the proposed addition for any use allowed by right may affect traffic impact. The city has not reviewed traffic impacts of other possible uses of the proposed addition. That being said, I do want to note that the threshold requirement for traffic impact study has changed since the original petition was decided last year. You've changed your rules regarding when a traffic impact study would be required. It was previously required because the addition was greater than 10,000 square, the property was greater than 10,000 square feet, and it was an extension of that. The finding required to grant a special permit or in this case, to amend the special permit would be, you would need to find the revised proposal is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. Do you want me to go on?
Yes, please.
So, prior to the public hearing, I had initially recommended tabling the hearing and decision until the petitioner provided more information about the proposed use of the proposed addition, so that you could determine whether the proposal is detrimental to the neighborhood. We have heard some information, so I'll, direct you to note 5. I had indicated suggested if sufficient information about the allowed by right use of the proposed addition is provided at the public hearing, and you are able to make the required finding that the proposal is not more detrimental to the neighborhood, it was recommended that any decision to amend the special permit granted in case number 1901 and grant a new special permit would be subject to the following conditions. And I've listed all the conditions. All the conditions 1 through 8 are the same as the original special permit. Should I read those?
Yes, please.
1, all development shall be as per plans except where modified by these conditions. And actually, that should say as per plans which are incorporated herein by reference, so that the plans are incorporated into your decision. 2, install and maintain pavement markings as per site plan, except eliminate space number 1 and number 47. 3, maintain driveway located between 89 Madison Street and 97-99 Madison Street, closed and gated for emergency access only or abutting residential access. Maintain driveway on Green Street at southwestern corner closed and gated for emergency and transformer access only. Maintain center driveway on Green Street closed and gated for emergency access only. I will just make one note. When I was out doing the site visit, the Madison Street driveway was not closed and gated. So I'm not sure what the status is of that. There is a picture in your package. It does show that there's signage, but compliance with these conditions is once he builds the addition, so maybe he hasn't done it yet for that reason. 4, at the Green Street and Bellrock Street intersection, remove faded stop lines at the former approaches to Medford Street and install a one-way sign that will ensure visibility for westbound Medford Street traffic. That was recommended by the city peer reviewer. 5, install and maintain privacy fencing along all property lines abutting the park and all residential dwellings except along length of driveway between 89 and 97-99 Madison Street. Again, that has not been done yet, but again, these conditions apply if he exercises his rights under the special permit and constructs the addition, which he hasn't done yet. 6, repair or replace sidewalks, including related incidental work around the perimeter of the site to the reasonable satisfaction of the DPW director. 7, install and maintain landscaping of yard areas on Madison Street and Green Street. 8, plant 4 trees on Madison Street with approximate value of $2,000 total, location to be determined by ward city councilor. Now, the condition 9, I'm recommending be amended to read, use of the addition is restricted to only the following: light manufacturing, and then I think the board should specify which other uses allowed by right. I had put that does not create a violation of dimensional controls or parking deficiencies, but truth be told, I don't believe there are any. And any other use of the addition shall require an amendment of the special permit. So, since I don't believe there are any, I think you should specify exactly which uses you would believe would not be more detrimental to the neighborhood, which use of the addition. It's within your jurisdiction to impose reasonable conditions on use of the property. This is properly before you. They needed a special permit to construct this addition. He's asking for an amendment, so, you should definitely consider that. Then I also finally noted that if you didn't receive sufficient information and you can't make the determination that the revised proposal is not more detrimental to the neighborhood, I did recommend that you revise condition 9 to read, use of the addition is restricted to only the following: light manufacturing. So to actually eliminate the manufacturing piece. Again, this was based on the plans that he had submitted, and my understanding analysis was done under light manufacturing. As I said at the beginning, I was not aware that they were creating the violation with the manufacturing. I had missed that the first time around. I've seen it this time, so I would not, I think an addition to the property is appropriate. I'm not saying it's not. I think it's reasonable. But I would say any addition should at least, not create any new violations. And that would definitely be creating a new violation for that southern side yard. So,
And that would be if we were to allow building, construction, and contracting and R&D.
Right.
Because
that's
all
correct.
the other items violate the parking, and he said
Yeah.
he didn't want to pursue
Well,
those.
if he doesn't want to pursue them, I mean, again, I guess the marketing is, the piece of it he was talking about. So, I mean, research and development and building, construction, contracting are two uses that would not create parking violations. They would create dimensional. But you can,
Do you have any sense of what that is, or would you need time to research it?
what?
What impact either of those two, research and development and building, construction, and contracting, might have on the property?
Well, I mean, right now, I would say the property is essentially, that portion of the property is already being used for building, construction, contracting. That contractor's yard is a building, construction, contracting use. So the difference would be it wouldn't be an open yard, it would be a building. So yes, all the equipment and trucks outside would be inside, which I think the petitioner had referenced at the first public hearing. He might use it to store that. So I guess on its face.
What my question
Yeah.
is more is getting down to, is it just a side yard violation would go from
Yes.
11? Would go from, it should be 15, 11, so that's a 4.
Right, and that's the
So
27%.
It's about, what, yeah, about 30%, I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
it's, I think I found it to be 27%.
So it'd be a
but-
27% deficiency, but do you know if that's the only one, or would you need time to research the others? I know, kind of putting you on the spot here, but.
No, I did research it. I did, when I was writing this up, and I was writing that the revised proposal won't create, or I was evaluating whether it would create new violations. When I started to look at the table, I noticed the differences, and that's when I noticed that manufacturing actually created a violation. Light manufacturing has a different setback than regular manufacturing. So a property used for light manufacturing can be closer to the property line. That's what the setback is. Manufacturing, building, construction, contracting, research and development, according to our zoning laws, should be 15 feet away from a property line. I think it's based on the nature of the use.
Right,
So-
and I'm sorry,
right.
light manufacturing was
10.
10.
Light manufacturing was 10.
So there's like a 9% violation that we missed at the last hearing,
No,
and,
it's 11 feet, so it complies with the 10. It's,
oh, okay.
the
I thought
addition
it was
is
saying
11
I
feet.
thought it was within 11 feet, okay.
No, it is 11 feet, 11 side yard.
Okay, so it satisfies.
Yes. What I missed was that it didn't satisfy manufacturing.
Oh, manufacturing.
And they had asked for light manufacturing according to the plans, but I think then when we were discussing it, we added manufacturing, thinking that would give him some
Some
flexibility.
flexibility, okay.
So, no, I did review it this time, more thoroughly, I guess you'd say. So I looked at frontage, lot area, side yard setbacks, rear yard setbacks, coverage, et cetera. Again, there are already violations. This is a new violation.
Okay. Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, Michelle, I just wanted to clarify, and for Chairman as well. So we're able to change condition 9 to include light manufacturing, R&D, and building construction, as long as we are also okay with accepting the side yard increase. to the 15 feet and getting that 27%.
Yes.
Those are the only 4 that work out of the allowed use.
For those,
The by right uses. I just want to make sure that those 4 are the only ones that we can.
when you say the only
consider.
ones that work,
Well, the by right ones that would work and keep the, stay with the parking below the 44 spots and satisfy the parking requirement.
right, those are the allowed by right uses that would work.
Right.
What I guess I would have to add now, since the petitioner mentioned warehouse and some other stuff,
That's special permit, right?
that would require a special permit,
So we
so,
would have to come back for any special permit in addition to this. So all those special permit allowed uses, he would have to come back for another special permit if he wanted to change any,
That's
to any of
correct.
those.
that's correct.
And then we would address those at that time.
Yeah, you'd address the proposal, whatever the proposal was, right?
Okay. Is that it, Ken?
Yep. Yes.
Anyone else have any questions for Michelle? Charlie Ferguson.
Yeah, just a quick clarification on the warehouse, because in the recommendation, it does list warehouse as one of the uses that does not create a parking violation. So I don't understand the coming back for a special permit for a warehouse. I don't understand that piece.
Okay, I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
What was just said was that he would have to come back for a special permit for warehouse.
The
but-
use requires a special permit.
Okay.
So no, any use of any property in that district requires a special permit if you want to use it for warehouse.
Okay, but warehouse wouldn't be included in one of the rights he would obtain if we approve it here? Because
No.
what we're,
Because it wasn't advertised, it's a different section number, you'd need to actually advertise for a special permit, petition under section 300 to occupy property for warehouse.
so it's not included as one of the uses by right?
No.
Okay.
Had he, petitioned for that, you
Right,
could have
but it's
addressed
not.
it all, but no, it was never.
Okay, so then the others would be just the manufacturing, light manufacturing, R&D, and any others? Sorry, just those 3 that do not create parking violations?
Research and development, building construction contracting, manufacturing, and light manufacturing all
Okay,
would not create,
parking violations,
right,
but would create that 27% dimension violation?
well, right, some, light manufacturing wouldn't,
Okay, not light, but the others.
right.
Okay. Thank you.
And again, you can, he can go for a variance, it's just, it would be a building that can't necessarily be occupied, if he doesn't get the variance, so.
Right, for that, unless we
Right.
approve it tonight. If we
If you
approve
approve it
for,
tonight, you're still not legalizing that part of it. Unless he's proposing that.
okay,
He
I'm
proposed.
not following that then.
It's
If-
non-conforming, the property's non-conforming, and to extend it or structurally change it, he needs a special permit. While you're granting that special permit, you can legalize other non-conformities if you want to. You have the jurisdiction to do that.
Right, so.
That's why you could allow an addition that doesn't meet the setbacks. That can be part of your decision.
Right, but then would they still have to go for a special permit?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Right.
And then I thought you just said that even if we allow these extra uses, they would still have to apply for a variance.
No, if you allow the uses that create the parking violations.
Oh, the parking violation, not the dimensional control
Right.
violation.
Right.
Yes, okay, I thought you were saying the same thing.
No,
for-
unless he's proposing it now. If he said, I'm proposing to use this for retail services, he'd be coming in with a pre-existing non-conforming addition. You could then take that up as well, but he's not proposing that, and I don't think that you're ready to recommend allowing a nonconformity of 50 spaces.
No,
Right, right.
and I wasn't
Right.
intending that.
Yeah, you could
What-
technically do that now, but I mean,
What
since
I-
he's not pursuing that now, he's going to have a building
What-
that you've allowed the construction of, but the occupancy, he may need to pursue other relief.
Right. What I was looking to go down the path of expanding it to include it now includes light manufacturing, expanding it to include manufacturing, R&D, building, construction, and contracting. And what my intention would be, by doing that, we are also approving the dimensional violation in the side yard setback. That's what my intention is.
Right, and you're stating that, so that's part of your decision. When I write the decision, a finding of fact is going to be, new violation may be created, so, yeah. You're approving
Okay,
it as
so-
per
so-
plans, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought you were telling me that I was incorrect in that
Nope.
assumption.
I'm
Okay.
glad you've stated it so
No,
that it's
that-
clear for the record that that's what you're
But
doing, right?
that's where I'm looking to go. I personally don't believe that in this market you can't find a tenant for that. I just don't buy it. I'm also disappointed that he's not willing to work with us on reducing the size of the building that hasn't been expanded yet, the expansion that hasn't happened yet. But that's what it is. I'm still trying to see if we can't expand some stuff that will allow him to do things, but are still going to protect us against some of these egregious parking violations and some of these other uses that I definitely don't want to see here, and definitely would have voted against it last time had I known the scope, the broad scope that they were actually seeking.
Well, as I said,
So-
I disagree they were seeking it because all the plans
Right,
label
but-
it light manufacturing, so.
But he's testified that his intention was that he was looking to do that. Charlie, are you all set?
Yes.
Eric Henry.
Thank you, Chair. Now that we're opening this up to light manufacturing, R&D, and building construction, does that, this precedence have, does these things become by right for all, for perpetuity or so? Or is it a case-by-case basis?
This permit will run with this property, so it'll apply only to this property. If another petitioner comes in on another property and wants to build a nonconforming addition to a nonconforming property, you'll review that on a case-by-case basis, and you'll decide then how, as you know, typically when a proposal comes in, there's a proposal that goes with it. I'm going to use it for this. That's how we can now analyze the parking and the dimensional controls. If they don't tell us what it's being used for, you wouldn't just allow a blanket addition not knowing the use, because we wouldn't be able to determine whether it complies with anything,
Yeah, I
So-
would be I wouldn't want to be perceived as infringing upon something somebody could do by right, but I just want to make sure that the right to have this is negotiable now that we set this precedent at it.
Yeah, it's allowed by right as long as he complies with dimensional and parking. So if he doesn't put the addition and he wants to use the building for something allowed by right, he can, as long as he doesn't create dimensional and parking violations. He wouldn't need to come to you for a special permit. He may need to go for a variance. So if he wanted to use the entire property for religious facilities, not an addition, just the entire property, it would create a parking violation. He'd need to go for a variance. So each property's reviewed by the building commissioner and determined whether it complies. When somebody comes in and says, I want an occupancy permit to use my property for this, the building commissioner says, do you have the parking? He looks at the building. He looks at seeing, are there any new violations created?
Right.
In this case, they proposed a non-conforming addition on a non-conforming property. The only option for him was to come in under the 700 section and to come to you. So the addition isn't allowed by right, but he has a right to ask for the addition.
Okay. Thank you. I'm just trying to look to the future with more possibilities as they may exist with R&D. Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Okay, anyone else have any questions? Eric Henry. Okay, very good. Anyone else have any other questions? Question for you, Michelle, for the people that are in the audience. If there is noise violations from this aerial tenant, who would the neighbors contact? What department in the
I
city?
believe they could contact the building commissioner, the Department of Public Health, or the police. I believe they all have enforcement under that particular ordinance.
Okay, do you know if they've studied whether the noise being generated by this use is?
I have not
You haven't
heard
Okay.
of that, no.
Okay, no, I was just curious.
Right, and
Give-
I mean, the
give some
ward
guidance on
counselor
that.
is the other, I would say, I would strongly recommend anybody report anything to the ward counselor, because she would be able to help them
Direct them.
navigate through,
Okay.
you know, whether there's any violations. There is a noise ordinance. I mean, even though
Right.
it is an industrial, that property is surrounded by residential, so
Right.
there is a noise ordinance, though. I don't know if this violates it or it doesn't.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else has any questions for Michelle? No? What is your pleasure? Ken Antonucci.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the special permit granted in case 19-01 be amended to revise condition 9 to use of the addition is restricted to only the following: light manufacturing, R&D, and building construction and contracting.
Okay, Ken's made a motion. Is there anyone that would like to second it? Diane Chuha.
I'll second.
Diane Chuha seconds it.
And so all the other conditions remain,
Yes.
1 through 8?
Yes, we're just revising condition 9.
Okay, now, Michelle, does that do what you need to have done?
For condition 1, if you could say all development shall be as per plans which are incorporated herein by reference. That was the only
Yes.
other change.
Okay, so if you want to add that to condition 1.
It was more like
After
a
plans.
administrative thing. I'm putting it in all of them now, so.
Okay.
But you have that?
Yes, I have that.
You're all set for what you
Yes,
need?
I'm all set. So
and-
Ken Antonucci, Diane Shuha, seconded.
So let's see, A, B, C.
And also, Michelle, I'm sorry, recognizing that by doing this, we're also accepting the dimensional control violation of the side yard.
Ready?
Yep, whenever you're ready.
Ken Antonucci.
Yes.
Diane Shuha.
Yes.
Charles Ferguson.
Yes.
Tawadej Gebrselassie.
Yes.
Patrick Hayes.
Yes.
Eric Henry.
Yes.
I'm sorry, forgot the new member, Risa Gray.
Yes.
Henry Susi.
Yes.
Chuck Iovan.
Yes, petition's been granted. With conditions for manufacturing, light manufacturing, R&D, and building, construction, and contracting. Thank you. Give us a moment when the clerk returns. We will be here in 333, 435 Eastern Avenue.
We approve him easily. I know. Yes.
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the auditorium on the first floor of the John and Christina Markey Malden Senior Community Center, 7 Washington Street, Malden, Mass. At 7 p.m. on Wednesday, February 12th, 2020. On the petition of Wash Depot Holdings 1, on behalf of Wash Depot 1, Inc., I'm not sure if that's a 1 or an I, to amend the special permit granted in case number 88-40, and for a special permit under section 700.1.3.2 of Chapter 12, revised ordinances of 1991, as amended, of the City of Malden to allow the extension and structural change of a pre-existing non-conforming property in the Industrial 1 zoning district, namely to construct a new convenience store and to erect a new canopy for the existing gasoline filling station at the property known as and numbered 333 to 435 Eastern Ave, Malden, Mass., and also known by City Assessor's parcel ID number 095419903.
Thank you, Ken. And I see the councilors at the podium. Let me turn that back on. Very good. Councilor, it's all yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. Thomas Callahan with offices at 1 Center Street in Malden, here on behalf of Wash Depot Holdings. We are seeking to amend a special permit as well as obtain a new special permit for the property at 33 Eastern Ave in Malden. You may know it as the mobile gas station on Eastern Ave at the corner of Bryant and Eastern Ave. This parcel is rather unique to the extent that the parcel itself is approximately 2 acres. It stretches from Franklin Street to Bryant Street and includes the car wash, which makes it, in my mind, a rather unusual parcel to the extent there's actually 3 buildings on the site, including the ATM, but there's 2 separate businesses operating on the site, which again is not the customary situation. We seek to amend the special permit given in 1988, which was for the ATM, and in that special permit there was a requirement of 4 parking spaces, which with our current plan we're seeking to reduce that to 2 spaces. It is a busy ATM, but there are other parking spaces for the convenience store as well. So if somebody came to the ATM and both spaces were taken, there is additional 6 spaces that go with the convenience store, which we feel is more than adequate because many people who pull into the gas station will jump out and make a quick purchase in the convenience store as part of their visit to the gas station. So what I think I'd like to do is, if I can, is just run you through the site in terms of the proposal. Of course, you have these plans with you. I don't know how easy or difficult it is for you to follow this, but presently there is a convenience store on the site, approximately 635 square feet. We propose to enlarge it to 1,000 square feet. We have done everything we can to maintain the east and west lines, if you will, so we're pushing it out towards Eastern Ave and not going further east or west on the site, pushing it towards, again, towards Eastern Ave, and removing several gas dispensers that are right in front of the existing convenience store. Again, the convenience store is rather small now. It won't be a large one if we obtain your approval, but it does give us an opportunity to sell more product. And I think it clarifies the site, again, taking away the dispensers currently existing. And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention the canopy. There is an existing canopy on the site, rather large one. It stretches from close to Eastern Ave, and it attaches to the current store. So what we'd want to do is tear down that canopy, put up a much more modern and attractive canopy, which will be approximately 35 to 40% smaller, because we're reconfiguring it. Now it goes kind of this way, right again to the store, whereas we're just bringing it along the 3 proposed pump stations. Right now we have 5 pump stations at the gas station, and again, we're going to eliminate 2 of those and have the 3 right out here. The ATM is over on the Franklin side, as you are probably aware, and then there's parking here, and then there's 2 additional parking spaces here. We have a space for the dumpster enclosed right over here, and of course the car wash goes this way. This starts the lineup for the car wash. So we are providing, as I mentioned, 6 spaces for the convenience store and 2 spaces for the ATM. We did conform with the demolition ordinance requirements. We found it a bit ironic, with all due respect to the demolition requirements, because it was a prefab structure trucked onto the site in the 80s, so didn't have terrific significance, but at any rate, we did. We did conform with the demolition requirements. We held a neighborhood meeting with the assistance of Councilor Anderson back in the summer. This process of applying was a little bit delayed, but we thought we were going to move ahead sooner. But we did have a neighborhood meeting with 4 or 5 neighborhood residents attending. No one had objections to the expansion. There was a few critiques about the site, which we've addressed, but wanted the board to know that we did reach out to the neighborhood and been working actively with Councilor Anderson. We conducted a traffic study in accordance with the planning board regulations, which was, of course, was peer reviewed. And the finding was that the traffic that's coming to the site is really pass-through traffic. This isn't a destination. People don't go to the gas station, go to the convenience store. They say, "Oh, I'm out. I'll stop at the convenience store. I'll stop at the gas station." So there was a conclusion there was an imperceptible impact on traffic. And as I read the peer reviewers' review, I did not see any contradiction to that. He had some other recommendations, but there was no contradiction that I saw to the actual conclusion on the impact. With that said, Mr. Chairman, I don't know. I have had the benefit of Michelle's staff report. I do have several questions and comments on the conditions. I don't know if you feel it's appropriate at this point to address those, or would you prefer to wait on those?
I'd prefer to wait on that. Let's hear what the testimony is and stuff like that. Maybe that'll help clarify what some of your issues are.
Sure. But that's the essence of my presentation.
So the long and the short of it is, you want to tear down the current convenience store, gas pumps, and canopy, and put up a larger convenience store, fewer pumps, and a smaller canopy.
Exactly.
Can you tie in how you want to work you led with the ATM parking reduction?
Well, just because that was an amendment, I just had put that on my presentation as that was a previous 1988 special permit when the ATM was permitted. And at the time, I wasn't part of this, but there was a requirement of 4 parking spaces, which, as we addressed putting more parking on the site to 6 for the convenience store, we came to the conclusion that 4 seemed excessive for just the ATM when we have 8 total for both the convenience store and the ATM. And again, a lot of people pull into the pumps and while somebody's pumping gas, the passenger runs in and grabs something from the convenience store. So, or they just, unfortunately, pump the gas and then walk in and leave the car at the pump. But so we feel that there's more than ample parking on the site, even reducing the ATM requirement to 2 parking spaces.
Okay. At one time, there was some remediation going on there when that was first built.
Yes.
Is that still
Oh, no,
going? It's almost 30 years.
that's
so
been
I imagine-
addressed and taken off the site.
So that's been taken off
Yeah,
the site.
of course, it took a while, but yes, that did take place some years ago, but as I understand, it's been off the site for 5 or 10 years at this point? Yeah, close to 10 years. It's
Okay,
been
I was
off the
just
site.
curious. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if it
Yeah.
had been removed
We've
yet or
cured
not.
the problem.
Wonderful. How long would you expect this renovation to take place? Would you be shutting down everything, or leaving the ATM open, or what? Can you talk to that a little bit?
I believe we would keep the ATM open since it's on the outskirts, it's on the edge of the site. That's what I anticipate. But let me ask Chris Riley, who's our development consultant, to address that, please.
So Chris Riley, 18 Autumn Lane, Wayland. The construction would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks, and the gas pumps in the convenience store would be completely closed, and we hadn't really chatted about the ATM, but that section where the canopy, the gas pumps, and the convenience store currently exist would be fenced off, and again, in a period of 4 to 6 weeks would be rebuilt.
And that would be everything, sink in the tanks and...
Well, the tanks were replaced approximately 10 to 12 years ago, so those still are fine. So there would not be
stay there and you just hook into them.
So it would just be the piping from the tanks to the island, and then obviously the footings for the new canopy, because you have to take the existing canopy out in the footings, and then building the C-store.
Okay, no, that's good to know, because I was curious if when you pull those up from the 60s, if there's going to be any breaching of the
Well, I think
tanks.
I think actually the president would be here, but he had surgery about a week ago, I believe, and can't travel. But if I'm not mistaken, the tanks were replaced in the last 10 years, roughly. 10 to 15 years, and at that point, that's what triggered the cleanup, and it has been fully cleaned up and has met DEP's qualifications and is off the. If you check the DEP
So anything that was
list.
found was fixed back then.
Correct.
Okay, is there any anticipation of taking down the ATM structure, or just leaving that the way it is, untouched?
The anticipation is leaving it as is.
Okay. With the larger convenience store, are you looking to change any of the offerings within? Because I remember when this first came up, there was a real concern. We were just getting into dealing with food and gas stations, and that was causing a lot of problems at that location. On the Main Street location with Gibbs, which is now Phillips 66. And I'm just curious if you're looking to change any of the offerings associated with it.
No, nothing specific, although that goes to one of the conditions that I would like to speak about at the appropriate time.
So you're not looking to do any freshly prepared foods or anything on site?
No,
it's all going to be packaged food and coffee.
It's your traditional convenience store. It's only 1,000 square feet, so there's really not any room for fresh food to the extent that, that's still relatively small convenience store.
Okay. Is there any anticipation in the new convenience store to have outside storage, or how they store soda and they do propane gas tanks and ice machines and all that other stuff? Is there any anticipation to do that?
No, there is not. The hope is to, if you've walked inside this convenience store, it's very old and frankly is very inefficient with the way the coolers are set up. This would be modernized, would have a bit more cooler space, a bit more space for selling your typical convenience store items, along with as you would normally find in a convenience store, cigarettes and lottery. But it would, it's really marginally bigger than what exists there currently. It would just be a newer, nicer, more efficient, energy efficient layout.
And a better looking one.
Yeah, no, I saw it. It's about 50% bigger than what's there right now, and it certainly looks. I like the layout of this one better than the one that exists right now. The one that exists right now a little cumbersome to get through and get up to the cash register.
And it's not the most attractive building, with all due respect.
Okay, you're not planning on storing anything outside. Is there any expectation to put a EV plug in there?
Those are just starting to come out in our industry, and honestly, I think in the state of Massachusetts there may be 4 or 5 at convenience store gas stations, typically on much larger lots because of the time it takes to recharge. It's something that there are funds that, when we look at this project, there are funds that we could potentially apply for. There's a VW settlement that you might be familiar with in Massachusetts that is somewhere in the area of $15 to $30 million that would help potentially do something like that. But it also would require a significant change to the electrical service on that property. It can't be done in a regular gas station electrical service as it currently exists. So potentially, but again, it's something that hasn't really...
Not in the initial go.
No, and it's such a small lot. As you're probably aware, it takes anywhere from 25 to 40 minutes to charge under a current system to charge a car maybe 50% or 60%. So you really need a bigger lot too. So if you start going in that direction, you could potentially tie up 2 of the parking spots for a half hour to 50 minutes, which is not our intent.
Okay. Can you speak to the landscaping that's going to be on the facility? Because I know it abuts residential area, and in the past when this was in front of us in '88 and afterwards, there were concerns with the abutter right next to behind the convenience store. Is it going to be just dealing with maybe sprucing up or replacing the existing stockade fencing? Or?
We're going to put in a brand new stockade privacy fence for the neighbors which would be on Almont Street, but the neighbors to our south. And with the change in elevation, that fencing it offers more screening because just the way the elevation is.
I noticed the canopy's coming down like 3 feet.
Yes.
Compared to the existing one. So that's interesting. What's that? Yeah, okay. Yep.
I was just saying there is a photo on the 3rd page that shows the back of that convenience store and the 2 levels of fencing. There's the fencing that's on grade level. This is to the left of the store. Then up behind it is where you're talking about the grade changes, so there's a higher fence.
Yes, yeah.
So all that will be replaced?
All the fencing at the rear is going to be replaced, yes, because the fencing is...
It's all wooden and...
It's
really,
in somewhat disrepair.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't say disrepair, it's tired.
It should help, though, with being the lower canopies and maintaining the fencing that's there.
Yes.
Should prevent the lights from disturbing the abutters.
Yes.
I would think.
I would, well, in a much smaller canopy as well, in terms of the size. And you're right, it is lower, but it's also much smaller by about 35%.
Almost 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and I get a question from Michelle afterwards. When you refer to drive-up facilities, we're talking about the vacuums and the car wash, not a drive-up for the
Right. The
bank
car wash is
ATM
considered,
or anything.
right.
Okay, no, that's good. I don't have any other questions for the petitioner at the moment. Does anyone else have any questions for the petitioner? Ken Antonucci.
Yes, just for clarification, the new building, is it going to be stick-built, or is it another prefab or modular?
The intent is for it to be stick-built.
Okay, and because of the size, slab on grade?
Yes.
So no foundation or anything required or digging for that?
No.
And the entire area, I mean, it shows that you're going to be demoing the columns and the roof and the building. Are you going to be removing the existing concrete apron that's being driven on, or is that remaining?
So that where it would need to be replaced, I think when the tanks were put in 10 or 12 years ago and the piping was put in, the aprons that are driven on were replaced at that point. So we would repair or replace as needed. But
okay, so you'll just excavate and put the foundations in for the new columns for the new canopy.
Correct. But we would be taking out that large slab that you don't drive on. But there are currently 2 pumps on that are in front of the building. I don't know if you can picture that, which is maybe a 10-foot wide, 10 to 12-foot wide stretch of cement that's up one step.
Right. And so you're going from, so what's that? You're going from 4 to 3 pumps?
Going from 5 to 3. Now, the 2 that are on that big cement are one-sided. But the other thing that we benefit, I think, the customers and the city is currently if there are cars at those half pumps and there are cars at the island, you're blocked. There's no pass-through. So, frankly, this would create a pass-through that doesn't exist right now.
Right. Okay. And then, so you would have to put a new curbing for the new pump configuration as well?
We would rebuild the whole island area, and because of new credit card laws that you might be aware of with the chips. The pumps would be chip acceptors, and the canopy, frankly, is a custom canopy that no one makes anymore, and it's it's lived its useful life. So,
okay. And then lastly, just again for clarification, the tanks are actually to the west, nowhere near where you're going to be doing the construction.
Correct. The only thing we would be doing is connecting the piping from the tops of the tanks from the sumps to the new islands, the new 3 pumps that would be on that long island, if you will. Generally, that island is where the pumps currently exist, the 3 that are double-sided. Okay. But that would be the only thing that would affect the tanks, because you'd have to tie. You would go back to the tops of the tanks with the lines. You wouldn't want to try to halfway through somehow cut and then reconnect lines.
So you would have to saw cut the existing concrete apron, put your piping in, any telecoms,
yes,
and then pour it back.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Eric Henry, please.
Yes, thank you, Chuck. I was wondering about this. Just a point of clarification: we're not going to be removing any tanks or anything like that. It's not going to be excavation to that extent. Was any thought or consideration given to a stormwater management process on this site?
My name is Mark Smith, 53 Eddy Road, Barkhampton, Connecticut. I'm a civil engineer, and we aren't proposing any drainage changes. We're not adding any new impervious surface, so we're basically working in the paved area, and we'll be putting that back as it is. The site, there is a drainage system, some catch basins on site, and we're just going to leave them as they are.
Okay, can we ask everyone around the podium as the others are talking to sign in? Mr. Smith and Mr. Riley. Thank you. You all set, Eric?
Actually, just one more question. How is, under this construction period, how is the use of the ATM and the car wash going to be affected?
Well, we don't see that either one will be affected because the car wash really enters further down away from the site, and the ATM again is to the west side of the site and can be isolated since our work is more in the center of the site, if you will. So the ATM way over here by Franklin Street, and our entrance to the car wash is down here. So that gives us ample, opportunity as long as it's well cordoned off to deal with the construction right there.
So to go from the ATM to the car wash, you'd have to go back out on Eastern Ave?
Yeah, well, during construction, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, the construction time period is not that lengthy, as Mr. Riley mentioned. 4 to 6 weeks. It should happen pretty quickly.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay. Thank you. Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, excuse me. Just one more question, and maybe Mr. Smith could answer. Eric brought up the point of the stormwater management. Is there? I noticed there is one catch basin there on site, and the concrete aprons. The concrete looks a little broken up around it. Is that a stormwater, or is there a sand oil separator or anything out there to, if you had any spills out there? I'm not sure what's actually out there.
Yeah, I haven't, because we weren't making any changes, I didn't really inspect the drainage system.
So if you look to the north, well, actually it would be to the east of the building. Looks like there's a catch basin.
Right, yeah,
right
I see it.
Before the concrete turns into asphalt.
Yep.
You might need to repair that
Yeah,
if it's damaged around there. But
it's
just
near
check
the
out the
construction
condition.
area. So, we could certainly take a look at that and make sure it's, the sump's clean, so it's functioning, and maybe put an elbow on it, which is kind of common at a filling station. Put a baffle on the outlet.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
One question, please, if I might, and then I'll turn it over. Michelle's got a few also. Right now, there's an issue sometimes that people park on the sidewalk next to the gas pumps. Is there anything about this new proposal that might help manage that or prevent it?
Mr. Chairman, you speak of here on Eastern Ave?
Yeah, I'm talking on Eastern Ave. They park it, and actually the city planner able to capture it in the photo where you had a person who kind of pulled in. So you've got the people next to the pump, and then there's cars between the pump and the sidewalk, and then someone straddling the rest of the lot and the sidewalk.
But that goes to one of the conditions which was recommended that I just wanted some clarification. We're going to make a suggestion. It goes to differentiating between the sidewalk and the site, which I think is necessary.
Right, whether it be just a berm or
well,
something.
That's what we had in mind as a berm, because I think it was suggested that it would be some sort of decorative fence, but that will get hit within the first couple of months. We repair it, it's going to get hit again. It's just not conducive, and we don't have a lot of room there because we need, what the whole design to the site is, have a pass-through here, people lined up to the pumps here, people lined up to the pumps here, and a pass-through there. So we don't have the luxury of taking 3 or 4 feet to put a planter with some,
Okay, we can cover that afterwards. Yeah. Okay, is anyone else? Eric Henry, you had a question.
Yeah, you actually just brought up another point there. Is there any way that you possibly could even consider like moving the existing ATM machine and get another parking space, just like on Franklin Street there? If you kind of, I don't know the exact dimensions in there, but I've used that ATM machine before.
I'm not sure what the distance, Mr. Henry, is between the ATM and Franklin. We don't have that on this plan, but I don't think it's sufficient to create another parking space if we moved it further towards Franklin.
Not toward Franklin, actually west, away from the sidewalk. If you increased it to, I guess it actually kind of starts with, could you move the ATM?
I'm sorry?
Go ahead, please. I'm talking at the existing ATM machine on Franklin Street.
Right.
Right.
This would be west.
You're correct. So you would move the ATM machine east. I'm sorry.
Okay, east.
So you'd move it closer to Franklin Street.
No. Away from it and creating a legitimate third spot, parking spot on the Franklin Street side of the ATM machine is what I'm trying to say.
I see what you're saying. If you
Yes, sir.
If you moved it east, you create a spot on that. I don't know that that's feasible. I understand what you're saying now. I just don't know if there's sufficient room there to create another legitimate space.
What is sufficient?
I'm sorry?
What is sufficient?
Well, you need to conform to the zoning in terms of the size of the parking
It's like 9
space.
feet. Yeah, it's like 9 feet you need to be wide on a,
9.5.
what is it, 12?
I was just going to note, and you can see this in one of the pictures, there's actually a curb stop in that spot. So if you look at this picture, so you're talking about to the right of the ATM, and I can give you a
Correct.
copy of this. When you look at this picture I took from the side of Franklin, there's an actual curb stop. Someone put a concrete stop. I believe that is used for parking, because at this end, it's 12 feet and it narrows back, and you have the same situation. It's flush with the sidewalk, so people can just pull in, and you're partially on the sidewalk. But there's actually already a curb stop there, so I think I think it's being used as a parking spot. What he's saying
Maybe.
is it should be 8.5 by 11, or actually 9 by 18 for a commercial spot. So it probably wouldn't meet those dimensions in its current configuration, but I would say I believe it's being used as a parking spot already.
And that's what prompted the question, could the ATM be moved to adequate dimensions to accommodate another spot?
Well, we could certainly look at that. I don't think we're prepared to make that commitment in terms, because we're uncertain as to whether it would meet the appropriate zoning requirement. But we would certainly consider that and research it. But again, we don't have that information right here at the moment to address your concern specifically.
Thank you. Understanding all that, just a point of clarification, you could move it if you chose, if you could.
Well, anything can be moved. It is a building. It's not just a machine. It's an entire building.
Okay.
You know.
Thank you.
Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, just on that east side of that ATM, is that an air machine or a payphone?
Well, there was an old payphone, which is right here, Mr.
Yeah, so I assume that would be going away.
That's going away.
Yeah, okay.
Being taken out.
Yeah,
Payphones.
could make a museum piece out of it, yeah. All right, thank you.
Okay, anyone else have any other questions for the petitioner? Is there anything else you'd like to add, Councilor? Oh, go ahead. If you got questions, then.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, it is shown on the plan, the former telephone pedestals to be removed. So you are intending to do that.
Absolutely.
That's in that white privacy fencing area.
That's right.
I had a question about the floor plan. What's the coffee program, and do you have any intention to lease or license or sublease or sublicense any portion of the convenience store to a coffee shop?
No, I think I don't know. I just noticed that coffee program. I think it's just the coffee area. There's no,
Okay, so just the dispensers or
right.
whatever.
No,
Okay.
this is not going to be subleased to anyone. This is our convenience store, which we're going to run in its entirety.
Okay, so you wouldn't be opposed if there was a condition that said no sublease or sublicense of any portion of the convenience store?
Not at all.
Because we've seen that with a couple of the other convenience stores over the years.
Really?
Honeydew Donut was in that one.
Yep.
So, you know, and that creates a different traffic pattern, even though it's only accessory. If there's a mini Dunkin' Donuts in there, it's,
In spite of this being expanded, it's still a pretty tight
okay.
store, yeah.
The other question I had to do with parking too, and when I was down there for the site visit, and I'd like to give you copies of these pictures so you'll see what we're talking about. That corner, which I think is the southeastern corner, there's a freestanding sign that's broken. This is at the corner of Eastern and Franklin.
This corner here?
Yeah. There's like a,
Yes, there is a broken
you know, I don't know what it is. It's a broken sign. That's just a wide expanse. There's no markings. There's nothing. When I was there, and I mean, I walked around maybe for a half hour, it was like a free-for-all. People parked wherever they could park. Like the chairman said, they parked on the sidewalk. They were at the pumps. They were at the ATM. They were at the side of the ATM. They were in that corner. They were sideways in the corner. I mean, this was just 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I was kind of surprised at how, it was a very busy station. I wasn't, not the car wash end, but that side. There was a lot going on. Is there anything that can be done to that corner, whether it's to actually either add parking or add landscaping or something so that it's either going to be used, you know, a little more appropriately, you'll regulate it maybe, or it won't be used for this?
Well, we entertained
Free-for-all,
the idea of, that you just mentioned, putting a parking space or two there, and came to the conclusion it would really impede the circulation, and just wasn't a great spot as much as we'd like to use it for parking. I think it's clear we need to, as part of the entire renovation of the site, is take some action to make it clearer what this area is for, whether that's, you know, cross-hatching, that, you know, yellow cross-hatching to indicate that, you know, no parking. But I don't know if adding landscaping would really impede, again, the circulation. I think some people do come out, back out, and drive like this to come off. So I just, you know, we could certainly look at putting something there to address your concerns in terms of something above ground, and then look to put striping to make it clearer what this area is for and not for.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's routinely used as parking, you know, so whether it's striped or it isn't. So I guess I would just suggest either you designate it for parking or it's not used for parking, you know. So the landscaping, the idea would be because it's, could use some landscaping, the site, other than
Sure.
along the back. And that corner with the broken sign was really striking at how broken it was. But maybe a landscaping bed, something to kind of, people wouldn't park in a landscaping bed.
I think if we put landscaping at a certain angle, so we don't impede the circulation
I don't mean the
dramatically,
whole
but make
parking
it much
lot,
more difficult for somebody to park there.
Well, it was just, it's an idea, but, and then the only other question I had, it had to do with also parking in the car wash end, because as you know, the board's reviewing the whole property. The same thing was kind of going down at the other end at Bryant Street. There's only so many spaces labeled on the plan, but then there's a whole wide open area. And again, the day I was there were cars parked all over it. So this is the other corner of the site. So down the car wash end, the corner of Bryant, where you have the curb cut, it looks like there's a post with an old kiosk, right where your finger is, right? That whole section was kind of also being used as a, I hate to say it, free-for-all parking.
The corner of Almont and Bryant, okay. Well,
so if you, I don't know if you, again, could either add parking, if that's how it's being used, or do something.
Well, we could certainly, stripe
Since you're
that.
so short on the parking.
I know
you
we are using that for parking, I think to some degree, employee parking, so we could certainly stripe that.
Yeah, because it's not shown, I think there's only 2 spaces shown on the plan in that corner, but,
Yes, you're right.
but
But
again,
but then there's 7 spaces,
right along that line, right?
That
But I'm
line,
talking
yeah.
about the line
This-
along, that line, yeah.
no, we could certainly look at to restripe that and get more parking in there.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, does anyone else have any other questions for the petitioner? No? Counselor, do you have anything else you'd like to add? If not, or when you finish, then what we can quickly run through which recommendations you are concerned about. You can identify it, state what your concern is, and then we'll take it under advisement.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, save that for the end, or would you like that now?
Finish your presentation. Then
Presentations.
before we go into those speaking in favor, we will identify which ones you have a concern with.
Sure.
And we will take your concern under advisement.
My presentation is finished.
Okay?
So looking at the planning recommendations number 2, right now we sell lottery, and lottery is a significant part of any convenience store. So certainly the prohibition on alcohol is fine, but I don't know a convenience store that can prosper without lottery, and we do sell lottery now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Number 6, we touched on briefly, and that's differentiating between the sidewalk and the property. And Michelle talked about a picture with a car parked, I guess, partially parked on the sidewalk. So our suggestion, rather than a decorative fencing, again, which will get hit and will get hit again and will get hit again, is a 4 or 5 inch berm that would certainly strongly discourage people from straying off the site and be a good differentiation between our site and the sidewalk.
Okay. Those are the only 2?
No, if I may, Mr. Chairman, 12 and 13, we'd like to take those off the table to the extent that we have 2 bays for self-service. We only have 1 in operation, and we'll shut it down. We have some plans for that in the future, but it's truly, for us, it's nothing but a headache, and we'll just shut it down.
So So you're saying the self-service car wash bays that can't be open till 10, you want to just have them removed?
Shut them down.
So no self-service bays allowed?
No self-service. That should take care of 12 and 13. If, in place of that, no self-service bays operating or operational.
Okay. Anything else?
15, we're not quite understanding what 15 is about, because if you look at 16, we made a voluntary donation to the city for some improvements to traffic, even though we didn't impact traffic. We made that, and we thought that was our contribution to the city, but 15 appears to be talking about a sidewalk at the Bryant Street end of the site, which we're not doing any construction there. And as far as we know, it was in fine shape until this week, and a utility company came in and started cutting it. But we don't feel that that's our responsibility to repair what the utility company did.
You're aware that this is a pretty standard one that we put in all our recommendations.
Well, I understand it is. If we were constructing down there, of course, we are bringing heavy equipment over sidewalks and damaging them, but we're not doing anything at that end of the site, and it appears that somehow, I believe it may be referencing the recent utility work that was done on the site.
I think what it's referencing is that we put this as a standard recommendation we put in all of ours, and that if the DPW director deems that there's no upgrades or updates that are needed, that he will be the one that makes the call on that.
But wouldn't it have to be caused by us?
No.
So-
As it's not part of the other ones. If the sidewalks are in disrepair around your lot when we're making these types of extensive changes to the lot, that's one of the standard conditions we put in to help correct that.
Okay.
This isn't new. This has been in for probably 10 years.
I understand it's not new, Mr. Chairman. I'm just trying to understand our obligation, given, again, there's utility work just gone on there, and I just feel
Okay,
it's...
very good. Anything else? Do you have any others that you want to raise as an issue?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's anyone that would like to speak in favor of the petition, you can do so now. Anyone that would like to speak in favor?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the Malden Planning Board. My name is Neil Anderson, and I live at 56 Mill Street in Malden. I'm the Ward 7 City Councilor, and I represent the area that this petitioner is located in, and I'm here to speak in strong support of you granting this petition this evening. I stand before you and speak in such strong terms for the approval of this petition because it's just based on the history of what has taken place in this location over the years. The gas station, the convenience store, the car wash has been a great thing in our neighborhood. The residents are glad to have the convenience store, the gas station that's there has all been run well. The operators of those facilities have been good corporate neighbors and have responded to the concerns whenever they've been raised. When we had a community meeting with a half a dozen or so of the local residents, and that's a very congested residential area, the residents came out and were speaking in glowing terms about their pleasure in having these facilities upgraded. So it's not like we're talking about putting in a gas station, convenience store, and a car wash into a new location. It's already there. We're talking about improving what is there, and I think that the plans that have laid out just do that specifically. They improve what is there. The neighbors are for it. As the representative of the neighborhood, I'm here representing them and myself and ask that you grant this petition based on those things.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak in favor? Michelle, anything to read in favor?
No.
Seeing no one else in favor, declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition of this petition? Anyone speak in opposition? Michelle, anything to read in opposition?
No.
Seeing and hearing no one else that would like to speak in opposition, declare that part of the hearing closed. Michelle, if you could take us through your staff report, please.
So we've heard about the proposal to demolish the existing convenience store and canopy, to construct the new larger convenience store, new canopy, reconfigure the parking, which would, and also to amend the special permit granted in case 8840 regarding condition 4, regarding condition that requires 4 parking spaces. You do have a copy of that decision in your package if anybody wants to see it. You heard about the property. There does have multiple curb cuts, access via Eastern Ave, Franklin Street, and Bryan Street. There are 3 principal buildings and several accessory structures. You heard that the petitioner has proceeded through the demolition delay ordinance. and has obtained the determination from the Historical Commission that the building's not significant. The demolition permit will not be delayed. I've itemized here the plans and information submitted. I won't read through this, but this is all incorporated by reference into the staff report and would be into your decision. In terms of zoning, the property is located in the Highway Business Zoning District. Direct abutters are residential, 1, 2, and 3 family dwellings, a multifamily dwelling and townhouses to the south, multifamily dwellings to the west, industrial and residential to the east, business, retail sales, and industrial manufacturing, motor vehicle repair shop to the north. The Residence A zoning district abuts to the south, the Industrial 1 zoning district abuts to the north. I will note that the notice of public hearing incorrectly referenced the property as being in the Industrial 1 zoning district, but that would not be considered a fatal flaw, so this is still properly before you, and the notice was sufficiently accurate for this public hearing to take place. Current uses of the property: gasoline filling station with convenience retail sales and retail services. So the car wash and bank ATM are considered retail services. Giving you the history of the property, the gasoline filling station began around 66. Convenience store retail sales was allowed by special permit in 87. The car wash began around 66, and that is allowed by right. This property is the subject of several special permits granted by the Planning Board. I've given you the case numbers here as well as the conditions. So you had a condition, a special permit granted in 1982 in case 82-20 that allowed extension of the car wash to self-service and construction of an addition. That was subject to 8 conditions that are listed here. In 1983, the board granted a permit in case 83-7 that modified conditions regarding hours of operation and traffic regulation for the self-service car portion of the car wash. Again, I've cut and pasted the conditions from the original decision. In 1985, in case 85-11, the extension of the car wash use construction of an addition. Also in 86, you granted a special permit in case 86-46 to reconstruct the gasoline filling station, islands and canopy, enlarge the convenience store, also subject to different conditions. In 87, in case 87-15, you amended the condition of the 86 decision to allow sale of food. So that's when previously the convenience store was allowed, but no food could be sold on site. In 88, you granted the permit to allow construction of the ATM. That is when the special permit was subject to a condition that said 4 parking spaces shall be established easterly and adjacent to the ATM for use by ATM patrons. So that's the condition they're seeking to amend. Then finally, in 2004, the board granted a special permit to allow installation of a temporary remediation trailer and associated components, and that was accessory to the gas station to remove contamination. I'm citing all, and that was case 04-28. I'm citing all this. I'm not reading all the conditions because many or all the special permits referenced prior special permits and required compliance with the conditions unless they'd been amended. So I'll just state at this point before we get into that, that's how I came up with the list of proposed conditions. So some of these are verbatim or almost verbatim carryovers from prior special permits. Some are remodeled, I would call, or reworded conditions of prior special permits. So at this time, this is appropriate for you to go through all the conditions that I've listed when we get to that point, but in your consideration of this case, so that you can update, so that if you grant a special permit, it will have the current conditions that apply to the property. There also, I will just briefly note, the records contained, records indicating there was a history of noncompliance with some of the conditions of previous special permits regarding dumpsters, trash, debris, and hours of operation. In terms of dimensional controls, the subject property is 88,129 square feet. There are 3 principal buildings. I won't go through again. Different cases, special permits you granted allowed additions and construction and reconstruction of the buildings. Existing buildings and structures violate dimensional controls for front, side, and rear yard setbacks. The property is pre-existing non-conforming because there are 3 principal buildings on one lot. That predates the prohibition of multiple principal buildings on one lot. Parking and loading. So current use of the existing buildings require a total of 43 spaces and 3 loading spaces. Under the proposal, 45 spaces and 3 loading spaces are required. So I've given you the breakdown. 37 spaces are required for the car wash. 4 are required for the current convenience store. 6 would be required for the new convenience store, the bigger convenience store. And for the bank, 2 spaces are required. So that's how we're coming up with the 45. So currently, they don't have the required parking. The site plan proposes a total of 17 spaces on site, 9 down the southern end of the car wash, 6 between the ATM and convenience store, and 2 adjacent to the convenience store. So that's north of the convenience store. They're asking to remove the condition that says 4 parking spaces shall be established and for use of the ATM. During a site visit, as I mentioned before, there was parking pretty much all over the place, any place there was available open paved areas. Giving you the breakdown of compliance with other parking requirements applicable to this property, namely lineup area for drive-through facilities, landscaping, dumpsters, and screening. In terms of environmental, you did hear the petitioner state that the environmental cleanup was done. I was able to confirm on the Mass DEP website that the case was closed. Traffic impact, the proposal did require a traffic impact access study in accordance with your rules and procedures. It was peer reviewed by the city peer reviewer. You have a copy of the original peer review. You have a copy in your package. That's a later dated November 22nd, 2019. You also have a copy of petitioner's response and the city peer reviewer's response to that response, and also petitioner's response to the peer review response. So you have copies of all of that. City peer review recommendations are incorporated into recommended condition 11. Do you want me to read any of the peer review comments? No. Or no? Okay. So the finding you must make in order to grant a special permit and amend the special permit would be that the proposal is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. So if you can make that finding, the recommendation is to grant a special permit subject to the following conditions. That should also say to amend the special permit granted in case 8840, and grant a new special permit subject to the following conditions. So this special permit would supersede the preceding special permits. So 1, all development shall be as per plans which are incorporated herein by reference and except where modified by these conditions. 2, any sale of alcoholic beverages is prohibited. I've removed the restriction on lottery. I was not aware, although I was at the site, I didn't go inside. I didn't know they sold lottery. So that's a typical condition you put in for new convenience stores or expansions. 3, no display or sale of any merchandise outside the building. That would be outside the convenience store building. I'm going to state that because I'm not sure if outside the car wash they have some things set up. I don't know exactly what. I don't know. It wasn't busy the day I was there. It was raining, but I seem to think that there are things they might put outside. I don't.
Okay, but
know.
the
So I'll
intention
say,
is
right.
in front of the
It's for the
convenience
convenience store, right. 4, install a minimum of 2 trash litter and 1 cigarette ash receptacle on either side of the main entrance to the store. Empty all receptacles and perform litter control throughout the entire site a minimum of 3 times daily. So that means an employee walks around the site, picks up litter, debris, cigarettes, lottery tickets, bottles, anything that's out there. And that will be the entire site. 5, line all parking spaces and maintain. Designate no parking areas with pavement markings and signage. I was going to suggest you revise that to say, revise parking plan to provide parking in the southeastern, additional parking in the southeastern corner of the site. That's the site down in Bryan Street. But I'm not sure if you want to address that or you want to leave it, right now, people are parking there, whether it's lined or not, so,
I think we should focus on the
yeah.
convenience store and gas
Right.
station area.
So that corner that I talked about, which is the northeastern corner, or northwestern corner, so that's the corner of Franklin and Eastern Ave. If you could put I would recommend something similar there, either, additional parking, if they seem to suggest they didn't want to do that. You would want to install landscaping and remove or repair the broken signage. I don't know if you want to leave that subject to my reasonable review. I could see the landscaping plan, or subject to the building commissioner, or subject to the ward counselor, if you want him to have some review over what that landscaping looks like. But actually, that would be I would recommend that as a separate condition. So 5 would be line all parking spaces and maintain, designate no parking areas with pavement markings and signage. 6 would be install landscaping at northwestern corner of site, remove or repair broken signage. But let's leave that out. That won't be 6, I'm sorry. So 6, let's leave 6. 6 is install, I guess we could say berm along northern property line to separate sidewalk from adjacent gasoline filling pumping station area. I don't have a problem if it's berm, curbing, or decorative fencing. It just seemed unsafe that people were just, and there were quite a few people walking along that sidewalk as well, so. So berm is fine, if you want to, is that what they said, berm?
No, if we install a berm, install and maintain a berm. Sometimes if they use asphalt, and in the summer it heats up and people walk on it, it crumbles.
So what should we say?
Install and maintain.
Curbing or berm?
Not an asphalt berm.
Right.
Yeah, it should be at least concrete if it's a berm or some kind of curbing. Because to the councilor's point, if it's just an asphalt berm, plows are going to destroy that too. So it should be something durable.
So install and maintain concrete berm or curbing?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I would say curbing, and it'll be up to the building inspector or whoever to decide whether it's concrete or granite. I mean, granite is going to last a lot longer, but it's more expensive.
Install and maintain curbing
I would just leave it curbing.
along northern property line to separate sidewalk from adjacent gasoline filling pumping station area.
Can I offer, because I was going to, should I wait to?
Something for 6, yeah, if it's.
For 6, okay, so for 6, I would say, install curbing like we just talked about, or any kind of raised landscape or hardscaping strip. So it's not just a curb, because if you just have a curb there, someone's just going to trip over it too. So as long as there's some kind of visual, I think you've got, enough room that even if it was just a 18-inch wide or something like that, something that you could put in there that would visually dress the place up, but also delineate the difference between the drive-through and the sidewalk, but also not just a curb, because someone's just going to trip over that.
So
if it's only a curb.
install and maintain curbing and landscaping along northern property line to separate sidewalk from adjacent gasoline filling station pumping area.
Yeah, and then I guess it would become 7, your new 7 would be the same language for the northwest corner.
Well, yeah, that'll, yeah. I mean, we could add that to 6.
Just add it to 6, I would say, and I'd make sure it was low landscaping or hardscape island or strip at the northwest corner.
Install landscaping at northwestern corner of site, remove or repair broken signage. Do you want it, at that point?
I would specify low landscaping, though, because you don't want to interfere. You don't really want any shrubs or bushes or anything there to interfere with any kind of sight lines. We already have sight
Okay, is
issues.
anybody going to have review over this?
I would say subject to the ward counselor and the city planner.
Subject to review and approval of Ward 7, of Ward City Councilor. Okay? I mean, he can review it, I don't need to.
Yeah, then just
I
once,
mean, I
as
can
long
work
as
with
it's,
him, but as long
as
I
long
think
as
he's
Councilor
good.
Anderson's good with it,
Okay.
trust his judgment.
So
I mean, you understand the intent. I'm just trying to dress it up a little and delineate the sidewalk from the driving area.
So 6 will say install and maintain curbing and landscaping along northern property line to separate sidewalk from adjacent gasoline filling station pumping area, and install low landscaping at northwestern corner of site, subject to review and approval of Ward City Councilor.
Yes.
Okay, Eric, did you have a question on 6?
Yes, I did have a question more of concern too. Just trying to wrap my head around that northwest corner where, you know, Michelle's observations and even the southwest corner, if you will, with regards to the ATM machine. The councilor said something I thought was striking. He says, we want to improve what's there. And I think there's already a parking deficiency that we're going to create. I think there's an opportunity to improve a parking situation there if we just went ahead and considered the possibilities of more parking to utilize in this space. So in all its totality, I'm all for this and whatever other amendments you might want to put on this. If there's any way to get the stormwater, that would be great, but I think we should look for ways to improve the parking by increasing the spots. Thank you.
Very good. Michelle, next one.
Okay, so 7, it says screen all abutting residential properties on entire site with vinyl privacy fencing, install and maintain. So that's the entire site. So anywhere there's that wooden fence, essentially, or any other fencing, all along residential, which is all to the south. Yes, that's all Almont Street, so. And I'm not sure if 7 and 8 can be combined. 7, again, was a version of a condition that from previous special permits. There's always been a screening requirement. 8 is maintain 3-foot landscaped area along Almont Street property line. That was an old condition from an old permit as well. The 3-foot minimum was actually, I believe, an MRA requirement because this was part of the urban renewal area. So you could actually combine 7 and 8. So it'll say screen all abutting residential properties on entire site, vinyl privacy fencing, and maintain 3-foot landscaped area along the Almont Street property line. So that will be the new 7. 8 would be enclosed dumpster with gated privacy fence. 9 would be maintain security lighting of property at all times. Again, there was a condition in one of the old permits that actually said lighting will be directed to the entire site at all times of darkness and all this other stuff. So I think that was the intent, was security lighting. So even if they're not open, there's some, security lighting. So 11, direct all lighting away from surrounding residential properties. That's the new 10. That is previous condition. To delete 12 and 13 and create a new condition 11, no self-service bays are allowed at the car, no self-service car wash bays are allowed. Is that right? So that's the new 11. 12 would be, in this list, 14. Hours of operation of gas station shall be limited to 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. That was a condition agreed to, again, years ago. It's up to this board, and I did check with the city council. They don't have an hours extended license for extended hours. So unless you want to change that, I would leave that.
Going.
So that's 12. 13 is a condition, repair, replace sidewalks, driveways, perform necessary incidental work around the perimeter of the property, adjacent area near abutting property. I don't even know why it says east. It shouldn't say east. it should say repair or replace sidewalks, driveways, perform necessary incidental work around the perimeter of the property to the satisfaction of the DPW director. That's a standard condition, so that phrase is my mistake. I don't know why it's in there.
Now, let me ask you a question. If, as the councilor proposed, a utility company went in and cut up a part of the sidewalk, I'm presuming the Department of Public Works director is going to make them fix it.
I presume that too, but I don't know that. I actually did walk around and I did notice the sidewalk was all cut up, but I put this in just as a standard condition
Right,
because
it's
it's
a
in all of
standard,
them.
but could you take an offline action to confirm that with the DPW director? That whatever utility company went in there and cut it up, they're going to put it in a suitable fashion?
I mean, I think that should be the case, but I really don't know.
Right, no, I'm not saying put it
Yeah.
in as part of the
Yeah.
condition.
Yeah, I'll
I'm
find
saying
out.
offline, make him aware of it, that someone else.
Yeah, I'll find
and,
out.
And we made this determination under the assumption that whoever cut it needs to fix it. And maybe the building commissioner might be able to speak to that? Excuse me, sorry, Commissioner Miller. Question for you. A utility company comes in, cuts up a sidewalk. Do they have to put it back in the condition they found it? Or, yeah, so they have to do it. So it's not like the petition is going to be incumbent upon fixing someone else's maintenance work.
No, the DPW would hold the utility company responsible for patching the street, patching the sidewalk, whatever damage they would do.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So you don't have to take
Okay,
it off
so
line action, just.
14, which is 16 here, but the new 14 would be, as agreed in correspondence dated February 12th, 2020, from Howard St. Hudson, make a voluntary contribution to the City of Malden of $3,500 to be used for the purpose of installing traffic safety mitigation, namely signage and pavement markings on-site and adjacent to the site at Franklin Street and Eastern Avenue, as recommended by City Peer Review report dated November 22nd, 2019. The City Peer Review had made the recommendations, and the petitioner came up with that figure, gave us an itemized list how they came up with that figure, what the costs of the materials were. The only follow-up question I had from the peer reviewer, because we just received that today, was that is the cost of materials. It's not the cost of installation. So he just questioned or wanted, to make aware that the city would have to do the installation.
Well, if the agreement was for $3,500, we can't tack on labor now.
Right. I'm just.
It was a poor job on whoever negotiated it.
Well, we didn't negotiate anything. Originally, the peer reviewer asked.
What's this agreement?
Okay, originally, the peer reviewer asked for mitigation. The petitioner wrote back, we're not agreeing to mitigation. So then the peer reviewer wrote back and said, you typically, you work with the city. Then the peer reviewer, then the petitioner wrote back and said, okay, we'll do these things, and this is the price of it. And that literally just came in today, and I had a phone conversation with the peer reviewer. And that was his only question. So nobody agreed to it or it's up to you to agree to if you think it's.
So it's not agreed in correspondence, it's discussed in comments.
Or it should say, I guess, as stated in, I'm just trying to say that they agreed to do that. So I guess as stated, should say stated, that's my mistake. As stated in correspondence, they're telling us they'll give us $3,500 to do the mitigation.
Okay.
Except for there was one piece of mitigation to do with the sidewalk ramp down at Bryan Street that they didn't agree to. But that may be an issue with another one of those developments, So then 15 would be no sublease or license of.
But before you do that, how come there's an annotation that this is from a previous condition? Should that double asterisk
Yeah,
not be there?
That's a mistake, yes.
Okay, thanks.
I changed the numbers a bunch of times
No,
and
that's
didn't
fine.
change the asterisks on that one. So that's new. So then the new 15 would be no sublease or license of any portion of the convenience store. And then, I guess that was it, because we already addressed landscaping up in 6. The only other thing would be if you want to revisit revised parking plan to provide additional parking, and you just won't know where it's going to be if you don't see the plan, so.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Basically, on the plan, they provide 8 spots. And you're saying in and around the gas station and convenience store and ATM, they're providing 8 spots plus the spots at the pumps. And on page 4, you're indicating that with the proposed new convenience store, the requirement would be 8 spots. So that the remaining 37 spots are associated with the car wash and the vacuuming and stuff like that.
Yes.
So putting a spot that may or may not be standard up on Franklin Street, I don't know how that helps the convenience, how that helps the car wash portion.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just raising it if you wanted to add it. If you don't, that's fine too. I agree that that goes with that. I just think there's quite a bit of space that's, like I said, it's being used for parking anyway, so my idea was.
So down on
maybe it should
Bryant,
be.
so you're suggesting that we line at Bryant and Almont?
Well, down at Bryan, and then like I questioned this corner too, but if we're gonna do the landscaping too, so. And then the other thing had to do with remove or repair the broken signage. I think
What broken signage?
this broken signage that's right on the corner.
Didn't you include that in condition 6?
Okay, that was in condition 6, okay. You're right, I did say that, but I don't think I repeated it. Okay, so that's part of condition 6.
So if you want to put 16 as the line by Bryant and Almont, that's fine with me. I just,
No, it's up to the board. I thought it got, raised as an issue, so it's fine. It's being used as parking anyway. So.
right. Okay, anything else that you want to add?
No.
Any questions for Michelle?
So that's 15 conditions.
No questions for Michelle? What's your pleasure? Ken Antonucci.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve planning recommendation to grant a special permit subject to the following revised 15 conditions as discussed.
Henry Susi.
I'll second that motion.
Ken's made the motion to approve with the revised conditions, and Henry Susi's seconded it. Thank you, gentlemen. Let me cue people up while, don't forget, Risa. Okay.
Ken Antonucci?
Yes.
Diane Chuha?
Yes.
Charlie Ferguson?
Yes.
Chawadij Geber Selassie?
Yes.
Risa Gray?
Yes.
Patrick Hayes?
Yes.
Eric Henry?
No.
Henry Susi?
Yes.
Chuck Ioben?
Yes.
So 8 to
Petition
1.
has been granted 8 to 1.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you know how to spell Risa's name? Isn't it R-E-S-A?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm just going to try to change this afterwards. Okay. Thank you. Okay. What is that? We'll go there. That's that one. Did nothing change on this from what you provided with me yesterday?
No.
Cool.
The only one was Eastern Ave that changed. Do you have the current one? Did I even give it to you?
I had it here. I just had all my notes and my markups on the other piece of it. Okay, 43, 45, Seaview. Okay, you all set? Okay, Ken, can you read the notice for 4345 Seaview Avenue, please?
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the auditorium on the first floor of the John and Christina Markey Malden Senior Community Center, 7 Washington Street, Malden, Mass. At 7 p.m. on Wednesday, February 12th, 2020, on the petition of Voltig Realty 2, LLC, on behalf of Tamara Mossy, to amend the special permit granted in case number 18-07 under section 700.1.3.1 of chapter 12, revised ordinances of 1991, as amended, of the city of Malden, which allows the extension and change use of a pre-existing non-conforming property in Residence A zoning district, namely conversion of the existing 4-family residential dwelling to a multifamily residential dwelling up to 3 stories with 6 dwelling units at the property known as and numbered 43 to 45 Seaview Ave, Malden, Mass., and also known by City Assessor's parcel ID number 116715514.
Thank you, Ken. Is the petitioner present? Yes, good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Martin Murphy, current address 68 Sheridan Lane, Tewksbury, Mass.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we were before you in June for the special permit to convert the described property from a 4 to a 6 unit, given the extensive renovations that were necessary, partly because of the building becoming dilapidated over multiple years of neglect. As part of that process, we started demolition in September of 2019. And once we got everything down to the bare bones, we found things there that were initially going to be allowed to remain in place and were grandfathered in. But when we saw the condition of specifically the front staircase, which is the main egress, given that there wasn't a second means of egress required as per code, the decision was made to upgrade it to a conforming staircase, which led to the actual vestibule, the envelope of the egress widening into the units and also projecting forward based on the rise and run, taking up actual space from the actual residential units themselves. So overall, this cost about something between 280 and 285 square feet of loss within the units. Again, there was no loss in the overall envelope. It became part of the common space. The building had initially a small vestibule. with two beautiful Victorian doors on the outside and more modern, or more, I want to use the word modern, but more not as aesthetically pleasing doors in the interior. The change manifested a situation where the staircase moved forward, which sort of eliminated, as it came closer within 29 inches of that first door, it necessitated a remediation. So the remediation we've thought about for you tonight is that we would like to continue to have a vestibule where the original Victorian doors remain on the outside, so they're aesthetically pleasing to the neighbourhood and to that time period of when that building was built. In order to do that, extra space has to be created, which means there's an open porch there right now. And what we envisioned was closing in that porch on the ground level, which would allow the doors to slide forward, to create that vestibule, allowing the interior doors to slide forward to give proper clearances at the base of the staircase. On further review, obviously, from being before we explained our process and how we're very much detail-oriented and try to keep these period buildings looking, as close as possible to the way they were built back in the day. So part of that led me to take that facade and try and bring it up and tie in at the roof level with the mansard, so it looked like it was initially built that way, as opposed to just blocking out the first floor and having it being more of an impediment or just standing out more. So that allowed us to create some, which is before you tonight, some sort of design elements. I think that would be very aesthetically pleasing. It does add some additional small square footage in the second floor, again part of that egress envelope. And on the third floor, it adds a smaller amount of space because the mansard comes in at 10 degrees, which tilts forward and creates a, you may have maybe a foot and a half of ground space, but by the time you get above head height, it's gone because of the angle of that mansard. In addition to that, on the plan, the exterior stairs and the exterior supports on that portico are brick. I don't believe they're original. So part of the plan would be to remove the brick, replace it with columns that more fit that period in time, where recessed columns, whatnot, using like composite and either wood or, a PVC AZAC, which is more in line with, from the look perspective, it looks like wood, but it's a lot more, it's got a lot more longevity. But I think that would look better in that staircase than having a brick staircase with limestone pavers in front of a beautiful Georgian mansard. Also, the existing brick staircase that's there has shown signs of wear and tear. There's some structural cracks in the stairs themselves, which means it would need to be repaired anyway. It's also not to code. The risers are up to 8.5 inches, and some of the treads are in excess of 12. So it is, as it exists, non-conforming, and that it encroaches and doesn't meet the setback requirements as it stands. The remediation that we plan on doing there by rebuilding the stairs won't fully correct that, but what it would do by building it to the proper rise and run is it would pull the staircase in towards the house about 4 inches. Not a lot, but at least it's in the right direction. It's not going to satisfy the requirement, but it's not going to make it worse. It'll make it actually a little bit better. But I think the main thing with that staircase is, as you drive down Seaview and look at the building, once it's fully restored, I think that the curb appeal would be phenomenal, having that staircase rebuilt in that manner. That's one of the other elements that's on there. The other element is, when our architects did the initial drawings based on the way the building was cut up, they inadvertently missed the fact that once they got to the top of the staircase on that third floor, that there was a large area in front that wasn't being utilized. So one of the things we have discussed is that, and again, we have designed these as one-bedroom units. The change, I know there was a discussion in June when we were in here, and some of the neighbor concerns were the concerns that with parking? Was that going to make the situation more perilous for them in their parking? Were we going to get these going to become two-bedroom units? So we never intended them being two-bedroom units. They're going to be utilized as that one-bedroom plus that study. I think Barbara has been in with my wife, walked through the building, and she actually saw these second rooms. So these rooms have actually been modified in a way that they've shrunken with these changes in the staircase, and now these don't even meet the requirement by code to be a bedroom. They're between 66 and 69 square feet. The closet is 100% being utilized as mechanical and laundry within that space as well. So I think that Barbara actually made a comment when she came in that when she saw them in person, you could clearly see that this would never be utilized as a bedroom. It's been designed to have sliding barn doors in front that will remain open. So one of the things we had looked at was, and one of the things that space could be utilized for was to add 2 small 3/4 baths on the 3rd floor, given that the 3rd floor was already smaller with the mansard encroachments. But I think a good utilization of that space would be to add an ensuite bath for the people who are living there. One of the things that we always find ourselves in is, in this very, very busy lifestyle we live, is time. And if you can add a space there that creates an additional bathroom ensuite, if someone's entertaining, they have their bathrooms being used during entertainment, it's not their primary bathroom of their bedroom where they're showering and whatnot. In addition, somebody can utilize it in the morning getting ready for work, a couple who don't spend a lot of time together. I know some of us maybe would just want to get out in the morning early and not have that conversation, but if you can have 2 people getting ready at the same time, maybe you get an extra 30 minutes sleep, 2 people hit the bathroom together, get shower ready, maybe spend 15 minutes grabbing a quick breakfast before they head to work. It's something that our tenant base has been more vociferous about, is asking, is there a possibility of, do we have any units with a second bathroom or an additional half bath, even in the 1-bedroom units? So that space, even though it can be utilized for other things, maybe storage or whatnot, we feel the best use for it is it's right off the bedroom in both those units, and if we can incorporate 2 small additional 3/4 baths there, I think it's the best utilization and best use for that space. And the only other one thing I want to mention is, when we were in before you initially, our initial plan that was designed by the architects had a second means of egress on the back between the deck elements. Part of our process as we were going through that after we got approval was, given that there's ledge in the back, was being able to support that whole second means of egress envelope, and our construction architects brought up that we didn't need it. So at the time, there was a discussion between the building department and our architects. It was in fact not necessary as per code. It met the requirements that with a fully sprinklered building, the one means of egress meets code. Again, that was part of what I brought up at the beginning, was making sure that we only have 1 staircase now. That's kind of one of the reasons why we were looking so hard at the rise and run on the existing staircase that was so steep and that was so far out of code. It kind of led us to say, if we only have 1, it's worth bringing it to code and making it a more compliant staircase. But it also, at that time, that's on your amendment tonight, because it was amended through the building department directly with the architects. But as we're going through an amendment, we put it on here as well, so it can get come before the board for approval as well. One other element we found, and again, until you tear these buildings apart, you really can't see initially from a macro perspective what all the problems are. And I'm sure everybody driving down that street would never think this building is what it is, but on the right-hand side of the building, it's 9 inches out of square, front to back. So when we had to rebuild it, we had to take a lot of the floors out. There was a lot of things there where people had hacked out structural elements. So we actually had to basically rebuild all 3 floors completely. And what we had to do was we had to pull the building in because of the addition on the back to line the roof up. We had to line up our wall, so our building wall had to come in to compensate for that 9-inch out of square front to back. What that does is we're having to add an additional LVL structure to our engineer in the basement with footings in order to support the building in the back corner. But the existing foundation, as you know, with fieldstone and whatnot, is in there. So that has to remain. I mean, to get in there, to take it out, you'd have to dig out the whole, everything around it. You've got ledge there, you compromise the building. So one of the things that we had asked initially was that side deck, we were going to have it set up for demolition and just go with the back decks. When we found this problem, I stopped the demolition crew demolishing it because I look at it as an opportunity to, once we rectify and get a transition from the new wall which sits inside that foundation, from a water perspective and waterproofing perspective, to get it outside of the foundation wall, that deck could be used to obfuscate that impediment. And basically it would lie below the level of the deck and wouldn't be seen by the general public or by the people who live there. Other remedial efforts will be made, everything will be proper from the perspective of water infiltration and whatnot, but if the deck wasn't there, it would be a ghastly looking element. So that's why we're looking to have that deck. It's not that we need the deck, it's more the deck is there that it can aesthetically cover up this repair situation that we have due to the fact that we've got this outer square building. I believe that covers all the elements that are on here. If there's anything I missed, you can bring it to my attention.
Question for you. With regard to the deck, how would you access that deck? Would that only be from the rear decks, or?
Yes.
I don't see any stairs.
Yes, exactly. What we envision, what happens is that would actually, from a perspective of utilization, would go with the first floor right apartment because it sits back on that right corner. It passes by their unit. So we would basically, on the back corner of the existing first floor deck, we would come at a kitty corner 45 degrees in line with the bay right onto that. It would have to step up, though, to get above the level of where that impediment is. So it would basically come around the corner, and then we'd create a step level to get up that one rise to get above that level where the transition is.
Okay, that makes sense. In looking at the other items, I think I applaud you for coming in and willing to put the investment and time in on making these types of changes for the property itself. And you explained about the gable gap, the roof, changing the roof line so that there's more height.
Oh, actually, I forgot that. That's one element where that's more. I'm very particular about how buildings look, and one thing I was never able to come up with on this was the mansard windows were set up with a flat roof. One of the issues we had there for a long time was water problems, but outside of that, I couldn't come up with an element aesthetically to bring that back to give it a nice architectural finish. It looked like it was very blocky and boxy looking on the side of the building. So therefore, I designed a gable element, and I maximized the gables so that they just came in under the roof line, so we were able to get an 8 pitch on the single windows and a 5 pitch on the double windows. But I'm not sure as anybody driven by, I think, and seeing we've done some of the framing, it's remarkable how different it looks with those elements on the mansard level.
It looks nice. I was by this past weekend.
And it's not even trimmed out. Once that's all trimmed out and finished, it's going to look remarkable.
Yeah. No, that's great, and I'm glad you're taking that attention to detail. The only concern I have, and if Barbara's seen it and sees that these studies are too small, the only concern I have is that those 3/4 baths, and I hear what you're saying, that it's a selling point and it adds a quality of life or convenience to life for a couple that might be taking it. But I just, in the back of my head, I have the concern that those studies are still 60-plus square feet, that, and with the extra bathroom, that they could turn into a two-bedroom, maybe not a formally recognized two-bedroom, but an emergent two-bedroom for that unit 5 and 6. That's the only thing I'm mulling over at the moment. That's the only concern I have. I hear what you're saying about the use of the space and trying to give an added feature to someone, but I'll wait to hear from the counselor on what her thoughts are on seeing the actual size.
One thing I will say is that, and I'm sure some of you guys are privy to having furnaces in your units or either in your basement or whatnot. The furnace is taking up half the closet size with all its piping and returns. So if you were to sleep there, you certainly would need some significant ear protection, because that when that runs either for cooling or for heating, it's going to be insulated on the back side from the perspective of the wall going to the bedroom. Will have soundproofing on it. But in the closet itself, which has the door for access and it's got the laundry doors, it would be extremely loud from the perspective of trying to sleep in that room with the furnace right there. I mean, you normally would never put a furnace in a bedroom.
And where is that? I'm looking at the study.
Yeah, so right in the study, the
I see washer, dryer, and then
washer and
bench
dryers
hooks.
on one side, and the furnace is on the other side. Takes over the opposite side of the closet. So the whole closet is sort of mechanical.
Right. That says bench and hooks. Is it the bench and hooks
The bench
area?
and hooks is on the outside in the actual hallway. So inside in the closet itself, right next to the laundry, is the furnace.
Oh, I thought WD was washer, dryer.
Yeah, it is.
Right
The
here.
washer and dryer is to
Oh,
the
it's
left.
right next to it.
Right next to it, yeah.
There's no symbol there, it's just.
Okay. Okay. Okay, well, thank you for that clarification. I still have a worry about these studies and second living rooms and family rooms. People go to Target and get a armoire or just a put together thing, and all of a sudden it turns into a bedroom.
Yeah.
But no, I think a lot of the improvements you've suggested, and I had a question about whether putting the vestibule would require you to demo all the stairs and things out front, and you address that. So, no, I think it's great. I think they're great improvements.
Yeah. And the only thing I can add, and I know that there's always changes, right? But one of the things we do in Malden, and I think we've got some sort of a track record to show that, I renovated the properties by the 7-Eleven over 20 years ago. I renovated them in a way that they were never to be sold by my family. They're a legacy to be passed down to the next generation. That's the way I renovated those properties. We're doing the very same with this property. The one thing I will say is, and again, I see your perspective completely, that there can be a change of ownership. We have no intention of doing that but while we own these properties, we stood here before you in June and we explained how we run our real estate business. We run our real estate business very differently. It's not all about dollars and cents and from the perspective of maximizing getting people. We run it from the perspective of also, as a business, being able to enjoy time with family and friends. We don't want to be in a situation where we're slumlords. We have a very strict etiquette from how we treat our tenants. We're very fair with them. But we have a situation where we've got medical systems on our buildings where keys can't be cut. You want a key for a building, it comes through tomorrow. Your mother's coming into town, she wants a key for a week, you get a key, you got it coming back, it's got a number. Access to our buildings is really restricted, and we really control our buildings. And part of the reason we do, and you can look at it, is if you were to walk through Salem Street today looks almost like it did when I finished renovating it 20 years ago, except for upgrades. It's impeccable. And it's because of the way we manage it. We have very, very strict rules and regulations. People coming in understand it. There's quite enjoyment for other tenants. You've got to put down rugs on hardwood floors if you're over somebody. And that has created a sort of an environment in our buildings that people stay. We've got tenants that are there 10, 15 years. and they could have went other places. Professional people that have, have been with us for a long time. We've had people who have moved from 2 or 3 of our apartments to each other. They've moved out and come back in. So we have a very, very strong managerial aspect to our business. But again, I understand completely where you come from the perspective that if there's a sale, you're looking from that perspective. The only thing I can tell you is we did Mountain Ave, a project you're probably familiar with. The biggest mistake was we over-finished it in a market where we were forced to sell because the finishes were too high end for tenants at the time, travertine, whatever. This building is being done in a way that we're going to hold it. It's going to become part of our portfolio. We have no intention of selling this building. The finishes and the detail and the work I'm putting into this building is not for a sale. I wouldn't get the return on what I'm putting in. Not just from a money perspective in today's market, I probably would, but the effort and what I'm putting into this building is to come back over multiple years. And that is what our intention is standing before you guys tonight. We're not looking to sell this building. And again, I can say that after the other buildings we've all bought in Malden, everything I've bought in Malden since 1990, I still own except for Mountain Ave, because I renovated that from a condo perspective from day one, and it was a mistake we made.
No, and your reputation precedes you. I mean, it's outstanding, and the quality of work and the management, and no problems with it. So I'm not questioning that. It's just one of these things when I start looking at these plans and start seeing something, I just start seeing
and I understand that
other things that could develop there. And we've had people come up with these grand family rooms and studies and things like that, and it's just the potential is really...
Like, we've got 3-bedroom apartments. Some you could call 4 bedrooms based on what we're talking about tonight. We've got apartments that are 3 bedrooms in Salem Street with a 4th bedroom that's bigger than the ones we're talking about on Seaview. We rent it to couples and 2 roommates. They want the extra space. Each of them has an office or whatever. You could look at our leases and our tenant beds. You'll walk into these apartments and you'll say, why would you have 4 people in here? But a lot of it is, if I could split that building into all 1 bedrooms, if I had parking and I got permission, that's what I would do. That is what our business model is based on 1 bedroom apartments. That's what we want to try and buy. We no longer would want to buy we would never buy 3 and 4 bedroom apartments that are available. Even though you're looking at income per capita, we don't look at it that way. Just lots of headaches, issues with roommates not getting along. The 1 bedroom model is our model, and that's what we're striving for. And here we've got a perfect building and Tamara was instrumental in that. She wants that extra room for a day. But our tenant base, a lot of them have people who come in from out of town, parents who come in from out of town. They want a space that they can, like, say, they can stay there for overnight or whatever. I can convert it, but that's just what it is. They're not into the roommate situation, having multiple people. They want a quality of life where what we provide for them is what they're looking for. And we haven't had any issues with this. Even though I do understand the board's concern, and if I was in your position, I'd be looking at it the same way. I look at risk-reward all the time, so I'm not trying to persuade you, I'm just trying to give you the facts of how we run our business. It's not to be taken that I'm trying to dissuade you from your point of view. I understand your point of view. I'm trying to give you as much information as possible about how we run our business, and that as long as we're in charge and that we're owning this building, these concerns you have will never come to fruition. Not under our watch.
Thank you. I'm sorry, are you all set with your presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Michelle has a couple questions.
Yeah, I just had a question. You mentioned, and the chairman was looking at it, but I see on second and third floor proposed plan, there's a note that says, so this is the unit 5 and 6 where you're proposing the 3/4 bath. In that study, there's a washer dryer, but then it says, no, mechanical units on 3rd floor will be located in attic space. So there actually won't be a noisy rumbling furnace in that room.
No, that's what the architect wanted. We've already got the actual furnaces are in place right now. We kept them in line with everything else in the building.
Because I see it on the 2nd floor and the 1st floor, but it's noted that it's not on the 3rd floor.
Correct. the architect saw a space up in the attic, and they said, look, you can create an extra, your closet can be a little bit bigger on that room, but when I look at it from the perspective of the logistics, you have to put in a fireproof hatch to get up there. If you've got a service call, okay, you can create a little bit extra storage space, but the effort to get somebody into that space was not worth it to me. So all of my mechanicals are identical on all units. They're all
Okay, so this plan isn't correct, this note, then?
That no, it's not correct. No.
Okay.
No, it was her intention to try and do that. It was feasible to do it, but
Okay.
we chose not to do it to keep everything exactly as it was, and because of the logistics of getting service up
Okay.
into that space. It wasn't.
No, that's fine. Is there anything else that's not, because if there are any other changes to the plan, if the board approves the special permit, it will incorporate these plans in. So we need to make note of anything, otherwise you're going to be bound to follow these plans.
Yeah, in essence,
In the deck was something else. I got in an email reference when I had asked about the size of the side deck. The response had to do with possibly, the plans show it's L-shaped, but you may actually reduce the size of the deck and make it kitty corner,
I would
as you
prefer
said.
to do that, yeah.
So
because-
that's one note that I put in there, saying the deck can be smaller than shown on the plan. This is something else. The mechanicals will be in each unit.
Correct.
So it's not this plan. Is there anything else I was going to ask
and I believe
that's
on
changed?
the original plan that was submitted here for the special permit, they were all within the closets. The architect,
Right.
when she saw the space, when she saw it framed, she said, I can do an iteration, I can put them up in the attic on the third floor. So that, I believe the special permit had everything in the closets as we have it right now. So we're sticking with everything the same, everything staying.
Okay, but this will be the approved plan.
Correct.
But mechanicals will be in each unit.
Yeah, mechanicals in that second in that study area, all the furnaces will be in the studies on all units, and the washers and dryers, so everything will be identical.
Okay, thank you. Oh, one other question. The landscaping, it's going to stay the same, except where the deck is now changed a little bit. Is that, so the landscaping plan is still in effect?
Correct. I mean, in essence, any landscaping that was probably by the foundation may move to just outside the deck, so that it'll soften that deck as well, so that it'll just be, it'll just move that, whatever it's 8 feet or whatever it is, to the outside of the deck and become a perimeter right there.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions for the petitioner? Anything else you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
At this point in time, I'd like to entertain anyone who would like to speak in favor of this petition. Anyone speak in favor?
Good evening. My name is Barbara Murphy. I'm the Ward 5 City Councilor, and I reside at 28 Forest Street in Malden, Massachusetts. And all I can say is what a difference a different meeting makes on the same subject. I think I was on the next side, the against side, the last time I stood here. I do want to say that since I was here at the last meeting last June, with a number of neighbors, and you don't see any residents here tonight from from Seaview Ave or the surrounding streets, because over the last 9 months, there's been a lot of outreach by Martin and Tamara to the neighborhood. They've invited the neighbors in. They've explained what they're doing. They've calmed any fears that arose, and that is why it's so quiet here tonight compared to what it was the last time that we met. I also have had the opportunity to speak with Martin and Tamara a number of times and also visit the property and see inside. As you know, Mr. Ivan, I had very concerned last time about that second bedroom, the den being used, the potential of that den being used as a second bedroom. Having to actually physically been inside, the changes to that staircase have basically the catalyst for having reduced my fear of what that den could be used for. The fact that that staircase has been remodeled and taken up a good portion of the space in all 6 units has reduced the size of that den down to something that, I mean, could you put a person in there? I suppose you could. It would be very uncomfortable, but then again, you could put a person on a couch in a living room. This is truly a study, or even if it's not a study, just an area that you could store things in. The laundry room is right there. It's a very small area. It's, 66 square feet. And as the building inspector will tell you, the minimum requirement for a bedroom is 70 square feet. So if he was standing here, he would tell you that something that's very enforceable. If we ever got a complaint, it certainly could, be rectified immediately. However, having spent more time with Martin and Tamara, and been in their other properties. I've been in Bainbridge Street. I've been in Salem Street. I truly believe that the model that they use for renting to their tenants is as they've said. So my fears are calmed. I am in support of this. The amount of work that's going into the actual development is just incredible. The attention to detail is outstanding. It's going to, I think, be truly enhance the neighborhood. And as if you've had the opportunity to go into the building, as you go up to the 3rd floor and you see the space that Martin was talking about that was just overlooked by the architect, it really is. You come up to the 3rd floor and you walk to the end, and then there's just this space. There's nowhere to go. I mean, could you put a table or a plant there? You could, but in today's market, when you're looking at real estate, every square foot is something that should be used, and this is just, something that needs to be addressed. I do not think the 3/4 or half bath would be it would add to adding another tenant in that 5th or in that apartment number 5 or apartment number 6. I think it's more of a selling point. I do agree with the statements that they made tonight. I think you're going up 3 floors. There's no elevator, so I think it's just kind of an added amenity for selling that top floor. Although I will say, if any of you have a chance to go by and go up to the 3rd floor and look out the windows, you all might want to just go rent those 2 apartments, because the view is spectacular. I think it's one of the best views in Malden. But I do think that it's an enhancement to, the renting of those 2 units, and I don't think it would really, from the size of that den today, I don't think it really would add to someone, wanting to use it as a 2nd bedroom. So I am in full support. I have not heard any complaints from the neighbors about this. In fact, all I've heard are good things. I believe there are a number of letters of support that have come in from the neighborhood, and I would hope that you would all look favorably upon this petition this evening and grant the request. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone else in favor? Michelle, do you have anything to read in favor?
Yes, I have one letter dated February 9th, 2020. It reads to the Malden Planning Board, to all interested parties. The letter is regarding the required changes that are going to take place at 4345 Seaview, Malden, Mass. I am one of the abutting neighbors. In fact, I live directly across the street at 42 Seaview. I had the opportunity to meet Martin Murphy and Tamara several times at the above property and was impressed with their down-to-earth, friendly, and professional attitude and their determination to do everything right. After being invited to come in and evaluate the construction progress, I was delighted to see the quality and attention to detail with the framing inside. It is like a brand new house from top to bottom, and what a great job they are doing outside. I can't see why anyone would object to the changes that are going to be made to this building. I certainly do not have any. Sincerely, Edison Smith, owner of 42 Seaview Ave. And then I have an email dated February 10th, 2020. It reads to all well, it was forwarded to me the 20th. It's an email dated February 9th, 2020. It reads, Malden Planning Board, to whom it may concern, in regards to the public hearing on February 12th on the petition of Voltig Realty 2 LLC to amend the special permit granted in case 1807. Excuse me. Because of a previous commitment, we were not able to attend this hearing, but wish to speak in favor of the changes suggested. As abutters for 46 years and the most affected neighbors with a common driveway opening, we support the project. On February 7th, we walked through the house with the owner and got a clear explanation of the proposed changes. The owners are doing an excellent job in trying to restore the house. The work crews have been very respectful and neat in causing us no problems. We've seen other homes the owners have done and are excited for the completion of 45 Seaview Ave. Sincerely, Robert and Mary Miller, 47 Seaview Ave. And then another email also dated February 9th, 2020. It reads, Dear Tamara, it was nice meeting you last Friday, and thank you for taking the time to show us the property and the units and to explain your proposed corrections to the plans. We support them and appreciate your commitment to restoring the Victorian mansard. Best regards, Rick and Celeste, Ricardo Del Rosario and Maria Celeste Del Rosario, homeowners of 62 Seaview Ave, Malden. That's everything.
Okay. Very good. Last call. Anyone speak in favor? Seeing and hearing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone in opposition? Michelle, anything to read in opposition? No. Seeing and hearing no one in opposition, declare that part of the hearing closed. Michelle, can you take us through the staff report, please?
So you've heard about the proposed changes. You do have a copy of the special permit that you granted in June of 2018. That's case 18-07. That permit allowed the renovation and conversion of the property from a 4-family to a multifamily with 6 dwelling units, each with 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom as per plans. I've listed the changes that the petitioner has just gone through. I won't repeat them. I've given you a breakdown of what the existing layout that was approved was in terms of size, location of unit, number of bedrooms. So the existing when they purchased the property. I've also shown in this chart here, this is on page 1, what you approved with the special permit granted in case 1807. Then I've also shown, which is the third set of columns, what's proposed under this proposed petition. So locations are all the same, size, square footage has been reduced in all units, and number of bedrooms is the same. The following plans and information, the information that was submitted with the petition is listed here. It's all incorporated by reference into this report and would be into your decision. I won't go through that all. I will note that you, in addition to have the narrative in the sketches, you have floor plans and also site layout plan, grading, drainage, and utility plan, and an erosion control plan. Those were all updated by the engineer. Zoning and occupancy, the property is located in Residence A zoning district. All abutters and surrounding land uses are the same as when the special permit was granted in 2018, in case 1807. Dimensional controls, the revised proposal does not change compliance with dimensional controls or create new nonconformities. Parking requirements, the revised proposal does not change compliance with parking requirements or create new nonconformities. So the finding you must make to grant a special permit, or in this case amend the special permit, is whether the proposal is, you must find the proposal is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. So the recommendation, which was prepared prior to the public hearing and is made, provided you make the required finding, is to amend the special permit granted in case 1807 and to grant a new special permit subject to the following conditions. 1, all development shall be as per plans which are incorporated herein by reference and except as modified by these conditions. 2, excluding routine utility work, all ledge removal by any means shall require a special permit in accordance with section 700.13 the ordinance. 3, each unit shall have a maximum of 1 bedroom. 4, the porches, decks, balconies at the rear of each dwelling may not be enclosed. 5, install and maintain stormwater management system on site as per plans and subject to requirement that subsurface infiltration systems drain within 72-hour period. 6, parking lot grade along retaining wall running east-west orientation shall be level. Final grades of parking lot and retaining wall shall not result in single point of discharge of drainage runoff. 7, retaining wall base block shall be a minimum of 2 feet below grade along retaining wall toe. The wall construction shall include a detail for geofabric soil enforcement for any gravity wall sections over 5 feet in height. Provide city engineer with geotechnical data, soil friction angle, retaining wall overturning, and sliding failure analysis. 8, obtain construction temporary easement in order to construct retaining wall north-south orientation abutting 484 Salem Street property. If no easement is provided, then the proposed wall shall be constructed 2 feet within the property line. 9, obtain DPW commission for proposed curb cut. 10, repair, replace sidewalks and curbing adjacent to property to satisfaction of DPW director, including any damage during construction. 11, prior to issuance of a building permit, contractor shall provide city engineer with construction schedule and set up a meeting with the engineering department. 12, a temporary construction dumpster may be allowed. No permanent dumpsters allowed at the property. 13, the western side porch deck may not be enclosed. Its dimensions may be less than proposed. I just wanted to double check that.
Do you need to address something about the mechanical?
Yep, I'm
being
going to get to that.
relocated?
I just want to make sure that is the western side deck.
Yes.
It's on the west, right? Okay,
Yep.
so the western side. I've also recommended 2 other conditions. 14, landscaping plan may be modified around side deck, since it apparently is going to be, or would need to be. And 15, and I didn't give you a copy of the approved landscaping plan. I have several copies here if anyone wants to see it. That had all the detailed plantings, et cetera. And then 15, mechanicals shall be located in each unit. I don't know if you want to get real specific and say in the study closet, or you just want to say in each unit. On the off chance, yeah, it changes or has to change. Mechanicals shall be located in each unit. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to
Or
me.
each unit shall contain
Okay.
its own mechanicals? I don't know which is better.
Mechanicals will be located in each unit.
Okay. All right, so that was everything I had. In conditions 1 through 12 were essentially identical to the original special permit. So some of those engineering conditions, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think we had worked on. I think Ken had been worked on a lot of that with the engineer at the time who was here, as well as with the city engineer on some of those details. That's why they're pretty specific about what they needed to do or provide to the city engineer. That's it.
Okay, any questions for Michelle? If not, what is your pleasure? Ken Antonucci.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve planning recommendation to amend the special permit granted in case 1807 and grant a new special permit subject to the conditions as read.
Is there a second for it?
I'll second.
Diane Chuha seconded Ken's motion for grant with conditions.
You ready?
All queued up.
All right, I thought I saw the lights on. Ken Antonucci?
Yes.
Diane Chuha?
Yes.
Charles Ferguson?
Yes.
Tawadej Gebrselassie?
Yes.
Raisa Gray?
Yes.
Patrick Hayes?
Yes.
Eric Henry?
Yes.
Henry Susi?
Yes.
Chuck Ioven?
Yes, petition is granted, amendments are granted. Good luck with it. Thank you very much. Okay, we had a couple more items on the agenda.
We did not receive the approval not required plan or the application,
Oh, really? Okay.
so we don't have that. I had seen a draft of the plan. I had requested a couple additional notes and given the petitioner instructions on how to file. They needed to file electronically, file the fee, file the application, file the plan, come in and submit the original Mylar. That did not happen, so.
Okay, so.
But when I posted it on the agenda, I thought it was going to happen, so.
Okay, no, that's good, because that's what I was referring to.
Yes,
I
so
thought we had
that's-
more.
No, that is
Okay,
not.
so that's not ready.
So you'll probably see
I
that
brought my
next week.
pen and everything.
Put your pen away.
Okay, next order of business, status updates, Master Plan Steering Committee, no update. Ken, Community Preservation Committee.
We just continue to discuss and review the applications and review responses to requests for information that we gave to several of the applicants.
Very good, thank you.
That's it.
Okay, Michelle, Housing Production Plan Advisory Committee.
We have not convened again recently. I expect and I keep telling you the same thing, I expect we'll be convening at some point, sometime soon.
Very good. Broadway Corridor Study.
That's moving along. That should be wrapping up soon. They're doing the final analysis, making recommendations, so we should be seeing a draft of that sometime soon. I think there's another meeting where the study results and recommendations will be unveiled to the public. I'll let you know when that is.
Thank you. Complete Streets.
Complete Streets, no new updates. I think I mentioned last time that we received funding for the next 3 projects that were identified.
Very good. Mayor's Working Group for Reviewing Zoning.
Yes, we reconvened again recently and are working on some different proposals, which would first, of course, be filed with the City Council before coming to you. They include Malden River zoning, a commercial incentive overlay, also affordable housing ordinance. So sooner or later, and I'm not sure what order they'll be ready, but the group's still working. And
okay.
Actually, and one other thing, the short-term rental ordinance. So you may see some ordinances coming this year. Yeah, Airbnb and things like that, so.
Okay. What about Road Quarry?
Road Quarry Site Plan Review Committee convened the end of last month. Granted petitioner's request to amend the previous approval. This is for the last 3 buildings, residential buildings in Malden that are currently allowed under the current zoning. So we're seeking amendments regarding the traffic mitigation, and they are moving forward with construction of those 3 buildings, connection to Route 1, and revising the master plan. So you may also see some information or a proposal for rezoning up there at some point as well in the near future.
Okay. Very good. Anyone have any new or old business? Old or new business? None. Next regularly scheduled meeting is Wednesday, March 11th, 2020. Yes, well, I haven't gotten to that yet. Yes. Next meeting is March 11th on Wednesday, second Wednesday of the month. I mentioned that largely for our new member, Risa Gray. Welcome to the board. People can introduce after the meeting. Unfortunately, I didn't realize you had gone through your interview. Usually I like to attend those, but you had gone in under the cover of darkness, apparently, and I didn't realize, 1, that you had your interview, and 2, that the council had reported out on it. So I'm glad they did. I'm glad you certainly came in at a key time where we were missing 2 members tonight, but welcome. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me, ask Michelle, ask some of the other members, and we'll go from there. Ken, into the microphone, please. We're still on the... I do have one question for Michelle. This is an ethics year, isn't it?
I don't know. I'll have to see when they send us the
It's
notice.
2 years, right?
Yeah.
I think
I
this
thought
is...
we just did it, but.
Did we do it last year? I thought this was, I don't recall
just
doing
did
it
it.
last year. That's even better.
Yes.
I don't recall doing it last year, so I wasn't sure. And I just want to double check on that.
And the other thing, I mean, just going forward with the schedule, so the next meeting's March. We probably will not convene in April because we'll be moving. We're supposed to be moving into New City Hall in April. So I think it's going to be a lot to... Not for any of us, no. No.
Well, as
On that note, just people I know plan ahead. So April would be a good month if you're, going away for the month or something. You won't miss us. But at this point, it looks like we won't. I mean, unless the move date changes, but, so we might have a busy March.
Okay, thank you. And motion to adjourn? Second. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Enjoy. Now, how do I do this?